Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to the Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and what a mood I'm in. With the Oilers winning tonight, one more from the Stanley Cup Final, I am pumped right up. I'm pumped up for our guest as well. Jennifer Passavant is here. We're going to have a great show. Hopefully her audio patches through. We've been having a little bit of audio trouble, but we're going to try it out anyways, and we're going to have a good time. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position. SJ with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. And we have Robert Lamoth, Space Cow. How you doing? Yes, Space Cow will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Hi, Karen in the Woo Train. Dino Bravo, T-Bone, my man. Thank you for coming on in. Brown Dwarf and Cosmic Joe. Good to have you both here. Hi, John Corner, Lee the Bee, Fast Hemi, and Leafy Nebula. Good to see you all. And who else is here? Dutch Hank. Thank you for coming on in. Corey and W. Decker. Good to have you guys here. The Buckethead. How you doing? How's the Soothsayer doing? Major Lee. Good to see you. Hi, Melvin from Mars and Skip to Malou. Nice to have you here. Raymond L. I am Pam. I am Pam. Yes, me. I am Pam. Number 36 in your program. Starting in goal tonight with a 2.31 goals against average. From Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Richard Steele, Operation Shutdown. Millennium, my man. Thank you for coming on in. And we continue on with roll call here. There's Jessica S. Moving on, Paula Fost. Good to see you. Purple-haired Pixie Lara. Flat 6, Aloha Dave. I am Pam. Yep, I am Pam. Jorgensen is here. Jorgensen will be signing autographs for the first time tonight. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. I am Pam. W. David Page. Cosmic Joe, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. We continue on with our roll call here. We say hello to Algaray over on Twitch. He's pretty pumped up right now. Did 76 chin-ups in 30 seconds. 76 chin-ups in 30 seconds. Yeah. Body Tech, good morning to you. Hi there, Nina Williams. I am Pam. Thomas Rock and Dutch Hank with a great super chat. Thank you, Dutch Hank. We love you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Really hope you're doing well. All right. Moving on. Gory Tiger, Mama Susan, Night Watch, Susie 2020, and Candy Wolf. Good to see you all here as we are continuing with our roll call tonight. Jennifer Passavant is our guest tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get the radio side going, shall we? Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you tuning us in as we get into everything from aliens to holistic healing. Jennifer Passavant is our guest tonight, and we are in the midst of roll call. So we are having a good time. Hello there, Ann B. Android, good to see you as well. As we continue on here, I want to remind everybody the super chat is open. You can be like Joe and be like Dutch Hank. It really helps out what we do on a nightly basis. Also, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out, and we have a lot of fun with that tonight, and you can actually wear our stuff out in public and not be embarrassed by it. That's just the truth of it all, because that's what we do. Nicole Sakic will be here for UFO Court later on tonight. It's going to be a great show. I hope you're ready to join it. I'm ready to join it because my Oilers won tonight, and I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy. One win away from the Stanley Cup final. Take that, Dallas. Take that. Everybody. Oh, there's Bill WD-40. He is quickly lubing us up for tonight's show. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. Mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. Thank you very much for tuning us on in. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're in for a great show with all of you tonight. Joining us, Jennifer Passavant from beautiful Kalamazoo, Michigan, where she is going to get into aliens, UFOs, ET contact, communication, holistic healing, consciousness, and her favorite dessert to make after dinner. We're going to get into all of that tonight. And then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton is here from Among the Missing. Following that, UFO Court with Nicole Sakic. All right, let's get right to it. Jennifer Passavant is a holistic healer who, by remotely offering the unique and synergistic variety of modalities of intuitive spiritual life coaching, health coaching, and her exclusive modality of channeled alchemical healing, she provides the opportunity for transformation on all levels for a holistic healing experience that specify anyone's needs. She also has aliens herself, people. We like people who've got some aliens. So I think it's going to be a great show. Her website, jenniferpassavant.com. Let's check it on out. Jennifer Passavant, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Thank you for joining us. How are you? And I think we are frozen on that point. I would say we are frozen. Let's just go like this. And let's send her a quick message here. It's weird because like 3 minutes before showtime, we're having a great conversation. And then all of a sudden, her internet went down and we started freezing. Let's see here. See, the beauty of live radio sometimes is you get these little issues that pop up. And sometimes we can do something quickly about it. Sometimes you can't. But we're willing to make that happen. All right, let's see if we got her this time. There we go. Jennifer Passavant, it's good to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How are you? And she's frozen again. Well, is it the internet or is it the aliens? I don't know which one it is. There you are.
Okay. How are you? There we go. See how long this lasts.
There we go. Good to have you here, Jennifer.
Let's hope I stay.
Well, you know what? We want you to stay because we've got the next little bit of time allotted for you to tell us about your story and how you got some aliens, you got some communication, you got some holistic healing, you got a little bit of consciousness happening, some spiritual zen and chi to spread on that bread like butter,
Like butter.
Butter, that's right. That's right. Why did you get into all of this? How did it happen?
Oh, you don't understand what story you just opened up. It depends on what bit you're asking about. When it comes to the aliens, I had my first visitation when I was about 6 years old, and that kind of generated an interest in that, trying to understand what happened to me and what all that was about. And then as I got older, stuff got weirder. And I went down a deep spiritual path. And then I discovered that I was channeling some higher beings, and one of whom is what I was told was a seraph angel. And that I later discovered he is what we would refer to as an Arcturian. And so my understanding of what the angelic realm and the spiritual hierarchy entails had to expand, where most people delineate aliens are here and angels are here. And I had to reframe my whole understanding that everyone and everything is on the spiritual hierarchy, and there is no real delineation, but people tend to like to separate them, and I did too, until I learned that and went, oh wow, that's interesting. So it kind of, that's like the real Reader's Digest version, but that's how I kind of got into the channeling and the aliens and stuff. But the holistic healing, I was always into natural health as well. Even since the 7th grade, I was really into natural health. And so when I was able to kind of put things together with my spiritual gifts and my knowledge of holistic health and healing and nutrition and all of that, it just created this really beautiful synergy that I could offer to people. So
When you had that contact at 6 years old, what happened to you?
actually, it was in this room right here. This was my bedroom at the time, and my bed was right here. As it turns out, it was an astral experience, but I didn't know that until literally just a couple years ago. But in my experience was that I was awakened by three grays. I didn't know they were grays at the time because I didn't know what one was. I was only 6. And I heard a female voice in my head saying, "It's okay, come with us. We're not going to hurt you." And I was like floated up out of my bed, out the door, down the stairs, and there were like 2 flanking me on either side, kind of guiding me, and then there was the one that was telepathically communicating with this soft female voice. And I ended up downstairs, and they set me down on the couch, and there were others down there, and I was handed this bowl and a spoon with like this clear tasteless gel stuff, and I was told to eat it. And I was, a little unsure, and they're like, "It's okay, it's not going to hurt you, just eat that." And I did it. It tasted kind of like what you would think jello would taste like if you made it out of just plain water. And then I have no memory of anything after that. And then the next morning I woke up, and I remember looking out the window, and I saw an owl in broad daylight on a tree branch just outside this window. So, and then in high school, I read Whitley Strieber's book.
Communion.
Yes, and it affirmed being fed things, seeing owls after the experience. What it didn't say is that most interdimensional experiences are astral, but they're made to feel real, sort of like when you have a lucid dream and you think it's real until you realize you're dreaming. It So I thought that it was a physical experience, and I think most people who have these experiences do. And so I wasn't until later that literally just a few years ago, that I realized that it was a purely astral experience, but no less real.
That's the only book I've never finished.
Really? It's
Yes.
that it's the second half of the book that is where it explains where he goes and interviews all the different experiencers to get all the different
Yeah.
types of that was the bit that made me realize what had happened to me was a real thing. It was mind-blowing.
I'll tell you what happened. I was living on Vancouver Island, and I found the book at Costco, and I bought it. And I had just become a new dad. I was never having my own experiences or anything like that at that time, and I was 25 years old, and my daughter was about 4 or 5 months old, and I was reading the book, and I found it really intense, and I was just blown away by it. And one night, my daughter woke up in the middle of the night, and she was just an infant, so I changed her, and then took her onto the couch to kind of rock her back to sleep, as any good dad should. And I opened up the book to read. And it got to the part where Whitley had been taken on craft. He was at his cabin, taken on craft, and he looked to the side of him, and his young son was right beside him. And that part scared me so much, being a new dad,
Mhm.
that I closed the book up. I still have the bookmark in it. I closed the book up and I never opened it again. And maybe that was an omen, because I've tried to get Whitley Strieber on this show many a
Uh-huh.
time,
Mhm.
and for some reason he has never ever emailed me back. So I don't know if that was an omen or what it may be, but
Or
I mean,
or maybe now, maybe today, maybe us having this conversation is the universe's way of saying, "Finish the book and then read
oh,
it, and he will come." I don't know.
right? You never know. But did that contact continue for you, or was it a one and done exploration?
That particular type of contact was the one and done, but that doesn't mean my contact ended because this house this house is, or it's me, it's one of the two, it's either the house or me, is a little bit like Grand Central Station. And so what I learned is that most beings that people describe as being alien, or extraterrestrial, are not. They're actually interdimensional, and so they are able to come here without UFOs, or without vehicles. Their energetic field, their energetic body is their vehicle, and so they can cross interdimensionally to come visit us. So I've had a reptilian experience in astral travel. Uh, Two different types. When I say types, I mean two different types of reptilian beings. As well as a host of other. I don't even think I could. I don't have a name for them, but other types of beings, as well as people and beings that I thought were quote unquote angels, ascended masters. It's sort of Grand Central Station where I will wake up and I will see them, or it will be an astral experience. So it's the contact is definitely not finished, especially when you consider the fact that the angelic being that I now channel, is himself, an Arctur, what we would consider to be an Arcturian, which sounds like they're from Arcturus, and the Pleiadians are from the Pleiades, and that's not entirely true. That's kind of a misunderstanding, but so yeah, it's not stopped.
Well, you know what? My first experience with ETs was with an Arcturian.
Really?
Yes. It happened on April 15th, 2014. And I had 5 days previous at my friend's house, I had actually witnessed a UFO landing. The UFO called me outside at my friend's 10-acre property.
Hmm.
And when I asked it to turn its lights on, it did.
Hmm.
And then 5 days later, I met this psychic lady who's become one of my best friends, named Samantha Mowat. She lives here in British Columbia. 25 minutes after I met her, I was showing her where this craft was on the ground and everything. And she looks at me and she goes, "Do you want to go in the forest?" I'm like, "Sure." She goes, "We're going to see something, right?" And I knew, Jen. I just knew. So here I am, 40 years old, walking with a complete stranger into a forest behind the property. And we get about maybe 50, 60 yards into the forest, so a couple 100 feet. And Samantha jumps up on this tree stump and says to me, "Hey, Dave, I don't want you to be afraid, but I want you to look that way." She points north. She goes, "I want you to tell me what you see." So I took a deep breath. I turned, I looked, and all I could say was, "Samantha, what is that?" Because 200 feet in front of us was a 10 to 12 foot extraterrestrial standing there. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, middle of the day. And I could tell you that I'd never seen anything like that before. And we were able to delineate what it was as being Arcturian, because Samantha was able to channel in and get that figured out for us. So it was quite the experience. And
Yes.
it brought on a lot of woo for me.
Yeah, and you notice it didn't need a ship because Arcturians are interdimensional. So it was able to appear in the forest in front of you without the ship and that visitation were related, but the ship didn't bring the being, if that makes sense, but they
Yeah,
were related.
yeah. It was a pretty wild affair, I could tell you that.
I would
It was
imagine.
pretty nut bar.
Yes, they're
And
very tall and very thin and very beautiful and they're very advanced interdimensionals. Very,
yeah,
very
see,
advanced.
I saw the head, I saw
Mhm.
the head, I saw the neck, I saw the extremely thin body.
Yes.
I did not see the arms and legs.
Okay, so let me show you something.
Okay, so for our radio audience, she's going to show us something
Yep.
here.
So my best friend and I, because she is able to channel as well, when I was first channeling him, and again, this is before I realized that he was an Arcturian. I believed at this time point that he was just an angelic being, which again, both are true. We drew what we saw psychically, and this is what we both drew. I don't know if you can see that, but if you'll notice, no legs. This is mine. No legs, no arms, but body and head. And then he had this energy that was floating off the top that kind of looked like fiber optics, but he looked like he was made because he's in his what's called the rainbow body of light or his light body, because he's achieved such a high level of ascension that his body looked like it was made of like diamond fractals, if that makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, no legs, no body, or excuse me, no legs, no arms. But that's yeah, he's
My
beautiful.
guy had more of a rounded head,
Uh-huh.
and the head was protruding off the neck, and the neck kind of curved down into the body, and he was a really light tan color.
Uh-huh.
Re-
Yeah,
But
a more dense version. Yeah.
he changed color.
Uh-huh.
He went from a, like, if you put too much cream in your coffee,
Yes.
he went from that tan over to a darker tan color that almost looked like a quarter horse type color.
Hmm.
And I didn't see the second being there, but Samantha started communicating with the second being, and they invited us over. They said, they said through Samantha, "We're not here to harm you. We're not here to take you. You're more than willing to come over and say hello." And this is what's the part that screwed me up. They said, "But we are worried about the man's health." And considering Samantha isn't a man, and I was the only man there because there were only two of us,
Hmm.
I was like, they're talking about me because I was frozen.
Yeah.
But I always like to say this: I wasn't scared of the being. I was scared that everything in my life at that point right now that I had learned in that first 40 years, 11 and a half months was over.
Mhm.
It was over.
Yeah.
And emotionally, I was struggling and I
Yeah.
froze. So,
What so wait, you can't stop the story there. What?
well, we just stood there. Samantha was going to go down that path, and I literally begged her not to go.
Hmm.
Asked her to, like, I begged her. I
Hmm.
said, "Look, if this thing takes you, whatever it was," and I even
Hmm.
said, "Hey, I saw fire in the sky." I said, "I am suspect number one. If they take you, I am suspect number one. Not doing that. Not doing that at all." Right. So we got called to another part of the forest that both of us had the feeling there'd be more ETs over there. I never saw anything. Samantha never saw anything. We went back to the original place and they were gone.
Hmm. Arcturians are healers. That is their thing. Hey, Bob Birkins, Labyrinth is my favorite movie, just so you know. I'm watching the comments.
Excellent. Excellent. We got about 4.5 minutes before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. So far, this first half hour is flying on by. Jennifer Passavant is our guest tonight. The ET point that you are able to channel these beings and do channeling. Channeling is something that is an absolute trip of an experience because when I've channeled, I know that I'm always never sure, is it the being that is speaking through me, or am I repeating words in my head that the being is showing me, or is it my imagination? How did you get into channeling?
It happened to me. um, this is not a story that you want to start right before we're going to go to break, but I'll just say that Ian made his first visit in about 2010, where I heard a voice in my left ear when I was getting energy healing done by a friend of mine. And it said, just relax. I'm like, okay. And he started shifting my breathing. He was controlling my breathing. And I felt more relaxed than I'd ever in my life. And this breath work put me in such an energetic state that it was starting to connect he and I. And it took until 2014 for me to fully channel him. And when he first spoke through me, I'll never forget it. It was Christmas. It was New Year's Eve when he vocalized through me. He could move me before on by Christmas Day, but he started vocalizing on New Year's Eve. But it was I could tell the difference. I knew that it was not me. It was very obvious. And it started out with just sounds because he'd never spoken through a human before. And so it was like he was trying to say his name. So it was like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then it would be, oh, 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 oh. And he just started practicing sounds. And we literally had to set time aside every day to practice him speaking through me. But it took a lot of energy. It's not an easy task when he's going to vocalize through me. And so now I get images in my head. I might hear a word, or like I'll get claircognizance, where it's like I'll know something without knowing how I know it, or clairsentience. So when I'm talking on the phone with a client, I'm usually channeling information that is being impressed upon me, and then I relay it. And then the other thing that I've learned with clients is I don't like to spoon feed them the information and just be like, well, Ian just said da 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 da, because that's disempowering. So once I have the information, I know that it's more empowering for the client to become aware of the thing that I was just made aware of, because I know on some level they are. So then I put it in the form of a question and ask them something that will allow, like, kind of walk them down their own path to come to that same level of awareness. But when it comes to the channeling part, I know when it's me and when it's not me. It's like I can feel the difference when it comes, because claircognizance and clairsentience are really subtle. And so that's why you have such a hard time knowing the difference. But it's like, you'll know when it's information that you weren't previously aware of, and it will almost it will feel different, if that makes sense.
You know what I've noticed about channeling is we've got about a minute to go here. I don't know if you get this, but I know many others have. Do you ever get the channeling hangover the next day?
No, I actually get energized. Like, it energizes me, but I drink 3
Right.
liters of water a day. So I think drinking that much water allows me to channel that much energy. And I also eat a really healthful diet. I think it allows me to channel that much energy very easily, but I find myself very energized by it.
Oh, for me, it is like I just did flew to Vegas at midnight, did a bender, and flew home at like 5 in the morning. I mean, that's how bad it is for me. But and the weird part is I'm not even a drinker, not even a drinker. So
Drink more
it's
water. That's your pro tip.
yes, drink more water.
Yes,
That's
at
exactly
least half your body weight in water.
all right. Well, Jennifer Passavant, we're through first half hour here on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to continue with the channeling talk with Jennifer. Her website is jenniferpassavant.com. Check it on out. She's worth it. You can relocate your Zen and Chi and find it and bring it to you. And you can stuff it all in your body and get some nice peace and love inside of you. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear. That was fast.
Yeah, I need to find a way to join the chat, but that Kiara gal is great.
Kira is one of the most amazing human beings I have ever met.
She seems like it. I really enjoy what she's saying, and I wish I could. I'm not. My YouTube isn't connected to this, so I can't.
I'll give you a little hint. If you go up in the see our screen, Go to our screen, our window screen.
Yeah.
On stream. If you go up in the right corner where it says private chat.
Yeah.
There's a comment section.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. But it says
Doesn't let
join. When I hit join chat, I'm supposed to connect my YouTube to join the live chat. So that's why.
Yeah.
I've already tried.
Yeah. Kira is like my big sister who kicks my ass when I need it.
Well, that's good. Everybody needs a good ass kicker every once in a while, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I've taken a few punches from her and I just say, okay, Kira. Okay.
Yes, I just had a client call me his spiritual ass kicker. I was like, thank you. I take that as a compliment.
Yeah. I have my ass kicking spirit guide, Sophia. She is just ruthless to me. And
good.
then on this plane I have Kira.
Good. Yeah. I'm glad you have her.
Yes. I actually got to spend time with her 2 weeks ago at our SU fan party.
Paranormal Pixie says Kira's an amazing soul and star sister.
Oh yeah. And there's Mama Catherine. Mwah! I love you, Mama Catherine. Thank you for being here tonight. You're just the best. You're the absolute best. I love her. She's amazing.
Kicking the bum of the mind. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying reading the chat. This is so fun.
Yeah, she's like, I try to get Dave on the healthy planet. Dave's working on it. Hey, I started the year at 285 pounds.
And
I'm down to 260.
Nice. That's really good.
Yeah, I started having some really, really bad health problems. Really bad health problems. So
I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're whipping yourself.
It was all self-inflicted.
It always is.
Yeah. So I actually see when I played hockey, I wasn't a very nice player. So I broke my nose quite a few times. And so for the last 30 years, I have been struggling without knowing I've been struggling to breathe. And I even went for rhinoplasty in 1997 and it didn't work. And it was so painful. I don't know how these movie stars get like 5 or 6 nose jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
No thanks.
It's the worst pain I've ever had. And long story short, I was struggling to breathe. Yeah. And I only had 8% of my right nostril open and 10% of my left. So it was a good fight, though. I will say that. I lost it, but it was a good one. So anyways, long story short, this year, after I started falling asleep while driving, like I was developing narcolepsy where I would just be sitting here and even on the radio show, all of a sudden you'd see me pass out. And it would be, it was kind of embarrassing. But it was driving my son to his hockey game out of town that I really, really got scared because I was falling asleep at the wheel.
Lack of oxygen.
Yeah. So, and I was ballooning out because of it.
Yep.
And so I decided to go for a sleep test. And out of the 425 minutes that I was sleeping, I wasn't breathing for 261 of those minutes. So my body was going into emergency mode, which brought my blood pressure way up, and that I was probably within a year of a massive jammer. And so I went on a CPAP machine. I now sleep through the night. I no longer snore. Good. I no longer drool. I no longer get up between 3 and 6 times a night to go to the bathroom, which I have realized since that was actually a safety mechanism for my body.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah. So trying to get better. It's a struggle, but we're getting there. Hold on right there. Thank you to T-Bone, Dutch Hank, and Cosmic Joe for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Here we go. Already in the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight, and we're only a couple sheets of tinfoil in. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate you tuning us on in on this great show. Hey, I want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Holistic healing, channeling, alien messages. Jennifer Passavant is here. She's a holistic healer for the beautiful state of Michigan. And we are talking about channeling right now. Her website, jenniferpassavant.com. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you again for having me. I'm having a blast.
All right. And you were worried coming on this show. You're like, I don't know. I've done a few. They're not that fun. And, you're way too Canadian. And that.
I'm very familiar with Canadians. I have no problem with Canadians. I've been with one for 6.5 years.
I'm just teasing. But you got them Torontonians to deal with. See, I'm out west.
Yeah, golly, those are a whole different breed.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Mm-hmm. Never, ever trust a Leafs fan. That's all I'm going to say. It's hockey rivalry. We have to do it. But Jennifer, we were talking channeling right before the break. For people who may not know what channeling is, please explain that to them.
Well, it depends on how you want to define it. So to me, everyone is a channel and everyone has the capacity to channel, just like everybody has the capacity to have intuitive insights and intuitive instincts, gut feelings, etc. But what channeling is when you either receive messages from people who've crossed over or beings on the spiritual hierarchy. So what we would consider to be angelic beings and interdimensionals, because to me, they're all the same thing. And whether they channel directly out of your mouth or whether you are given that information and you relay it. So like a psychic medium would receive visions, words, etc., and then relay that message, or the being connects with your consciousness and speaks through you. All of that is considered channeling.
What's it like to have a spirit or an entity communicating through you?
It is both the coolest thing and the weirdest thing ever. I don't know. Other people that think it's weird have to understand that it's infinitely weirder to the person that it's happening to, because you have to let go of a certain, I shouldn't say not let go of a certain level of control, because you're always in control, but it's like there is a releasing and an allowing of allowing this being to use you as a means through which to communicate. And so you have to allow the words to come out. You have to allow your body to move in the way that they are moving it. So it's really a process of letting go and allowing. And that can be a little disconcerting. And sometimes it can even just feel strange, depending on, like when Ian works through me, it's very much in not a bad way, but it's very much like sticking a finger in a light socket because he's so high resonant. So it's very strange, but very cool.
Your guide is named Ian.
Yes. He gave himself that name because they don't have names, but humans need names. So he called himself Ian.
My main guide his name is Jordan.
Ooh, that's cool.
And he sits right at the top left of my face. And I only ever, when I communicate with him, and I can do that anytime, I can only communicate with him and see him in a side profile. So I only see like the right side of his face.
Yeah.
And he never moves, but he's got this real surfer dude type voice.
Okay.
So he's like, so I'll be like, hey man, need your help here. Am I going into this situation safe? Yeah, man, just go for it. You're all good. We got you. Don't worry about it. And it cracks me up every time because I'm the least surfer dude as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't like the ocean. I don't
Uh-huh.
like lakes because at 7 years old, I saw Jaws. My sisters forced me to watch
Oh,
Jaws.
oh.
And, my sisters were 10 and 7 years older than me. So they
Mm-hmm.
forced me to watch Jaws, and it literally scarred me. So I don't even dip a pinky toe in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know if the tide is out and I go in one of those little puddles, that is left behind on the beach, I know the second I walk through that shark fin is coming up. I know
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. Some people call that paranoia. Okay, but I don't. I call it safety.
Yeah. Safety. Yes. Yes. You were scarred for life now when it comes to
Oh
the
yeah.
ocean and sharks.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Australia's out because everything there. We got a lot of Australian listeners, and yeah, they know I'm not going to Australia because everything kills you.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, everything wants to kill you there. So anyways, when you're channeling a spirit and it's communicating through you,
Mhm.
one of the issues that I had, and I brought it up briefly in the last half hour, and I would like you to expand on this, was the fact that for many of us who have that experience, how do we know it's a spirit or an entity that's creating that communication and not just our imagination?
Well, like I said, it will feel different and it will come out of nowhere because you have to produce your imagination, right? You create that. But when someone is impressing this information onto you, whether it's a vision, an image in your mind that plays like a movie, or whether it's information that's just put in there, or words that play in your head or in your ear, it comes from, for lack of a better way of putting it, outside of you, and you'll know. I mean, you'll know if you created that or not. So it will not only feel different energetically, but you'll know that you didn't create that. Now, the trick is learning to trust that. That's really the meat and taters of it, is learning to trust that you didn't just make that up, that was given to you. And that can take time. I know for me, that took a lot of time to build up that trust.
Yeah, for me, it did as well. Have you ever been on a channeling experience where you've ended up astral traveling to where they want you to go?
No, because my channeling is so conscious, and I'm usually such in the state of having to relay what I'm even either being given, or I'm having to focus on a response from the client, that I don't go anywhere. So the most that they do is they show me images, or they play like a movie in my mind. Now, when it's just me, if it's just me channeling, I usually don't astral travel when I'm consciously awake. They'll usually show me shapes, colors, images, faces. But when I sleep, they will astral travel me to places. That's when I do most of my astral traveling, is when they communicate with me in my sleep state.
How do you know it's not a dream?
When you mean when you're sleeping?
Yes.
Oh, because when it's an astral travel, it feels like real life. Like you think it's really happening. When it's a dream, it's very dreams are like when your subconscious mind is communicating with you, and it will feel disjointed, and it will feel unreal, and it will feel like you're like watching it happen, and like you're less of an active participant, if that makes sense. But when it's astral travel, it will feel real, and then that's when you can get to the point where you go, oh, I'm dreaming, and you become lucid in that astral travel. Sort of like when you have a deja vu experience and you've dreamt it because you've been to that time and place before in astral travel. And when that happened, it felt just as real as it did when you finally come to it in your physical state. But that's what I've learned is the difference between an astral visitation or an astral travel experience versus just a dream. Dreams are disjointed and sort of, you know, how shall I say, like it feels like you're observing it, and it feels sort of like dozy. I don't know how else to describe it, but when it's astral travel, it feels super real. I don't know how else to explain it.
Well, let me ask you this because I have talked to people that say channeling can be dangerous. You shouldn't allow spirits or entities within you to communicate through you because they can try and push your spirit out and take over your body.
That depends on who you're channeling. You have to make sure you are your own best bodyguard, and you can't just be like, come on in, whoever, you know? You really have to make sure that I love dreams. Mhm. Yep. Yeah, you can be actually. Yes, Kira, you actually can be. But you have to make sure that you're very clear on who you will allow in and who you will not allow in. And by stating your sovereignty, and I will only allow those beings that are of the highest love and the highest light and in service to others to connect with my energy and connect with my consciousness. Like you really have to state those intentions.
Do you go through a meditative state before you channel to make
Yes.
sure that you're grounded and protected?
Yes. And I always state an intention when I do that. And I set the intention to connect with my guides. Now, my guides and I are always connected. So we're permanently connected because they are aspects of me. And that's true for all of our guides. They are typically all aspects of us, unless they are loved ones who've passed away or spirit guides that were loved ones in a different lifetime. But most of our guides are higher aspects of ourselves in different timelines and different dimensions. But I always set an intention and make a statement of protection and to only allow those beings that I've given permission to communicate to me and through me for the highest good of all.
What is the purpose of channeling? Why do you do it?
Me personally or people in general?
Well, let's start off with you first.
Oh, I do it because it happened to me to do it. And then when I was trying to understand why it was happening to me, I was told that it was something that I agreed to do before I incarnated. And it was to, of course, be in service to humanity and to help heal others by doing it. So I do it to be in service to others.
And you got started channeling how? Were you introduced to it? Were you did it just happen for you?
It just happened. Like I was very in awe of other channels and channelers. Cryon through Lee Carroll and who is it? The group Abraham through Esther Hicks and all of those others. I was fascinated by it, and it quite literally just happened to me one night when I was getting an energy healing from a friend of mine. I heard that voice saying, "Just relax," and then from then on, I would get put in that state anytime I would get an energy healing from anybody. And then after that, I got put in that state to the point where I reached a particular point where he and I were connected. And again, I didn't know who he was. I just knew he was trying to get me somewhere. And then he was able to move my head, and I was able to go into that breathing state on my own. And then ultimately he was vocalizing through me, and it was like, oh my God, I'm channeling. So it was something that to my conscious self happened to me, but it was something that I agreed to have happen before I incarnated. So yeah.
What do you channel? And why do you channel them? Is it strictly about aliens? Is it about higher beings, higher conscious levels? Are you doing ghosts and spirits?
So again, my perspective of aliens is very different from most people because I don't delineate between. I don't consider most aliens to be from somewhere else, rather from somewhen else. Different timelines and versions of different timelines and versions of us, and most of them are not from a different location, but rather from a different dimensional realm. So just to clarify that. I channel Ian because he's who came to me. And so again, he's from the he's a seraphim angel, so which is the highest angelic order, which means he's achieved his rainbow body of light, if any of you know what that means. And he and I agreed to work together but prior to incarnation. The other being that I work with is an ascended master or goddess who calls her, well, we know her as Kuan Yin. She is the Buddhist goddess of compassion and mercy. Those are the two primary beings that I work with. I have on occasion had humans, like loved ones of clients, come to me and speak through me. That's rare. Usually it is higher beings. Sometimes it's a person's other higher aspects that are communicating to me or through me. But it's usually, as opposed to being how shall I say this? As opposed to being humans who have crossed over, it's usually those beings of a higher dimension and a higher consciousness that I typically work with. Did I answer your question?
Oh yeah, I fully understand it.
Okay.
I'm just making sure our audience is able
Did
to
I
understand.
explain it in the way that you feel that the audience would understand?
I think you did. I
Okay.
think you did.
Okay.
Okay, so the purpose of you doing this is to what? Get messages about what's on the other side, get messages with what's out there, order in Taco Bell.
Definitely order in Taco Bell. Yes, absolutely. Yep. You nailed it. You nailed it, Dave.
I knew I'd get that. Is my psychic intuition coming in?
Yep. Congratulations. Right. Yes, that's it. So mostly with people that I work with, it is to give messages, but it's not like, so your angel Susan wants you to know that you were Princess Winter, Spring, Summer, Fall from Nebula 9 3 lifetimes ago, because that's not helpful. Like, congratulations, but that doesn't do anything. So where I really, what my focus, or what the beings that I work with, their focus is on helping people to heal themselves by reprogramming their subconscious wounding. So it's really about healing the hard stuff, as opposed to more surface level things about, you're gonna win $1 million and you were Cleopatra one day. Like, who gives a crap? It's more about, this is about soulful evolution. This is about healing yourself. This is about helping you do your real hard inner work by learning what the wounds are, how they got there, how they're impacting your life, and how you can, giving people tools and techniques to reprogram those things, that real challenging subconscious programming that we get typically in childhood, but can happen through traumas throughout life. But it's really about helping my clients do the hard work and helping them kind of walk them through that path, that journey.
It is something that I can see where it would help people. I can totally see where you would be. I am here. Can you hear me okay? Did our signal just leave again? We're so close. We're so close.
Is it me?
It is
totally my connection?
It is totally you. Totally you. I say we play this out because she can't hear me right now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, your computer
Can you hear me?
Yeah, your computer went blip, and then all of a sudden you couldn't hear us. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Ooh, I think.
Are we back with you now? Have the
except you just froze again.
Have the aliens started channeling my voice to you again? We'll get that figured out. We got about 4.5 minutes here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio.
Dave's not moving.
All right.
For me.
She is. Try this. Try that. See if we can add her. Yeah, she's. Oh, there we go. No, now we got you back. Do we have you back now? Do you seem to be back? Can you hear me okay? No. If in Radio Land you can see faces that she's making at me, it's kind of hilarious right now. And so one of the things that I liked about what she was saying is how you can use channeling from spirit and guides and other entities out there that you can actually communicate with in order to pass messages for self-help and self-healing. That's always a good thing. And I think that it's a positive atmosphere in order to do that. Can you hear me okay now, Jennifer? Can you hear me okay? Her picture looks great.
A little bit. You're coming in and out.
Okay.
You're coming in and out.
Okay. We'll try and get through this next couple of minutes here before we can reboot and get things going. I'll just send her a quick message here.
Okay.
Going to have to reboot you. I will remove you. Can you hear me now,
The
Jen?
comments are hilarious.
All right. Maybe I will just see if I can cut and paste out. So basically what I just wrote is we're going to have to reboot you. I will remove you from the studio and then enter back in. So we'll just put that up on the screen so that way she can see it. Because that, we want to finish this. We're going strong here. We're going strong here. So we'll see. All right. So we're going to try that. And we'll boot her from the studio and we'll bring her right back. Sometimes technology is just a pain in the butt. Remember the old phone lines we used to be able to do? Yeah. Remember the old phone lines where they're, before the internet day where you actually had to hard line into a radio show? See, now we do it for our radio audience. This is how we do it. We use a program called StreamYard. But StreamYard, as great of a program as it is, and it's like 99.9% awesome all the time, there's always that one internet connection that delays things, that makes things fuzzy, or all of a sudden it just doesn't want to work. But it's the technology that we have. We're going to get her back. We're going to get Jennifer Passavant back here momentarily. I love her. Her message is amazing. Doesn't she have good energy? Can you feel her energy in Radioland? If you're tuning in right now, well, not right now because she's not here, but can you feel her energy? I totally can. I think it's wonderful. More people need to be on that plane. Totally more people need to be on that plane. That's at least my thinking of it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but for me, how does our chat room feel? That's what I would like to know. I'm sure they're loving it because the message is absolutely incredible. Yes, Marty Burback says, Jennifer has great energy. I would love to meet her in real life. I think we all would. Just perfect energy. Perfect energy. And yeah. If you've never tried channeling, my suggestion would be make sure you are grounded. Make sure that you are grounded and that everything is good on your end in order to do it. Because last thing you want is to get a spirit caught in your body. Last thing you want is to have a spirit caught in your body. Because if that happens, you might lose control and all of a sudden start doing weird things, like all of a sudden eating sardines or something along those lines. Does anybody really eat sardines anymore? I remember as a kid, my dad would always eat sardines. It was the grossest thing for me. Or those kippers in a jar. Oh, gross me out. All right, Jennifer Passavant will be here for hour number 2 on Spaced Out Radio. And when we come back, we're going to get more into healing, energy, aliens, alien conversations. What do they want from us? What are they trying to teach us? Right here on Spaced Out Radio. Hour 2 is next. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here, connect with Jennifer, and see what's going on here. I'll be right back, guys. right, I am back. We're going to see if this connection is going to work. Worst case scenario, we're going to bring Jennifer back in on the audio line. Jennifer, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Let's see how long this goes. Oh, that's all right. Good thing I know how to talk.
I see the subject of star seeds being kicked around.
Yes. We will get to some audience questions coming up here. So what I'll end up doing is I'll end up putting the question up like this, and then I'll read the question to you, and then you can answer it.
Alrighty.
All right. Rose Desmarais, welcome to the show. I'm having fun. I told you this was going to be fun.
Yeah, this is great. I love talking about this stuff. This is my favorite.
Yes.
The weirder the better.
Yeah. All right. Susan Alloway, how are you? Right.
I would say to anyone who's skeptical, that's a good thing. It's good to be skeptical. It's good to have that. Being cynical is different from skeptical. So it's good to ask questions. It's good not to assume legitimacy and authenticity. So
Beautiful.
That's all good. It's all good.
All right. I'll get you to hold on right there. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Mike Arrington. And Les Paul Holland strumming away in Australia. How you doing, buddy? All right. We thank you tonight to W. Decker, T-Bone ×2, Dutch Hank, and Joe for the super chats. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Here we go. All right, here is our number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We are dishing out all the healing and zen you can ask for. Hope you're enjoying the show. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears. And thank you very much for tuning us in. And the Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Academicism. Academicism is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Jennifer Passavant is our guest tonight, channeling communication with spirit, entities, aliens, everything in between. What a life she lives. Her website, jenniferpassavant.com. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you again for having me.
All right. So right before the break, we were talking about the channeling aspect and why we do it, how we're doing it. How do we know it's real and not just Memorex and imagination? For you, this is a very, very big part of your career, of your life in helping people. What kind of messages do people seek?
So people don't come to me really for messages. It's not like I was saying earlier on in the show. It's not like they come to hear things like, your Uncle Bob says hello, and you were winter, spring, summer, fall from Nebula 9 3 lifetimes ago. It's more like they come to me when they're having a a challenge that they're having a hard time overcoming. So it could be that they see the same patterns in relationships. It could be that they're having a hard time lowering their cholesterol if it's a health issue. It could be that they are having a hard time healing from heartache and heartbreak. I mean, any number of things. And so really what they're seeking is help in overcoming these challenges and learning ways to, how should I say this? Operate not from their wounded aspect but from their healed aspect, if that makes sense. And so they get whatever messages they need to hear in order to help them to see what the wound is, where it came from, how it's impacting their lives, and then ways in which that they can work to overcome that, if that makes sense.
Do you enjoy this? Do
I
you
love
enjoy
it.
this? It's not stressful for you. You don't. How do you not take on the emotions that people have when they come to you?
Um, Usually because I put up a layer of protection before every session. And so I can also tell when it's mine and when it's not mine. And so even if I can feel it, I don't operate from it. It's more like I can feel it, and so I can observe it, and then know then how to um, respond to the person and work with the person, knowing where they are emotionally. That's really what the purpose of an empath is to be able to feel the feeling, but from an observational perspective, and not take it on, but also to process that feeling for the person, and then know how best to interact with that person, because you know how they feel. You can empathize.
So basically, you are connecting with their subconscious.
Yeah, and not only their subconscious mind, but also their higher selves.
Can anybody get in touch with their higher self?
Yes. Just like anybody can be a psychic, anybody can be a channel. These aren't gifts endowed to special people. Everyone has the capability of doing these things.
Wow. How do we tap into that though? Because for so many people, they say, "I want this to happen. I want to be able to do this. I just don't know how. And I've tried the steps. It doesn't work for me." Is it patience? Is it continuous trying on everything?
Yeah, and it's both of those things. And the other thing that I think people overlook is that at times your psychic abilities and your ability to channel can be very subtle, especially when it's clairsentience and claircognizance. Claircognizance is clear knowing where information is put in your head, and if you haven't yet learned to discern, oh wait, that I didn't think of that, that didn't come from me, that came from outside of me. Or if you can't discern your feelings from someone else's feelings, it can be that subtle where you don't realize that it's not you, that it's something that you're channeling. It can be, I think people tend to overlook the more subtle aspects of intuition and channeling and psychic abilities, and so they then think they don't if you've ever walked into a room and you can feel the energy, whether it's high good energy or like an argument just took place, that's channeling. That's psychic ability. That's being an empath. And so that is a part of that. And so I think people look for the obvious, and people want I want a being to talk to me or through me, because it's something you can't miss it. You can't mistake that. And so I think most people just tend to overlook the more subtle aspects, and so they don't think they have the gift. But the other thing is meditation and learning to quiet the mind, and opening that ability to receive those messages by focusing on the breath, giving your monkey mind something to focus on, and quieting the chatter. Guided meditations are nice, but they are, how shall I say this? They can make it more of an external experience, as opposed to an active experience, as opposed to an esoteric internal experience where you've quieted the mind and you're opened up as a receiver. Breathing also is important. You were talking about your issues with breath, and how should I say this? The better you're able to slow and elongate and deepen the breath, it's sort of like helps to open up those channels, because it also shifts your brain waves. It massages the vagus nerve, which stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, and your nervous system is your direct path to your channels. Your nervous system is your channel. So your fascia, your parasympathetic nervous system, your pineal gland, all of that is connected to being able to open things up. And breath work and quieting the mind through meditation are part and parcel to allowing that to happen. But I think also people just need to let go of what channeling and psychic ability is supposed to look like, and wanting it and expecting it to look and feel a particular way, so that they don't dismiss the gift when they receive it, if that makes sense.
I think that makes perfect sense, and I think that's a wonderful answer, by the way.
Thank you.
Let's get to an audience question. Jennifer, can you tell me what kind of starseed I am? Are you
I
able to
cannot.
do that?
No, but I also wouldn't if I could. And here's why. It's because there's too much of an emphasis on where you're from. And I'm using air quotes for those who can't see me. And that's because A, it's not a where, it's a version of you, it's a when. Meaning it's a lifetime that you had on what we would consider to be a different timeline of Earth, that we would perceive as being a different planet, but technically isn't. That you then bring those experiences here. But a lot of people associate that with some degree of specialness. I'm a Pleiadian, I'm an Arcturian. And so they liken it to a club that you're in, and everyone is a starseed. There is no one that is not a starseed. But being a starseed just means that you are now aware, consciously aware, that you have had experiences and lifetimes in other versions of Earth in different dimensions. So I would focus less on where you're from and more on the wisdom that you've brought with you in this lifetime, and loving and
Right.
honoring who you are here and now, because you're no less important, you're no less special, and you're no less cool now than you were in that other lifetime as a starseed.
In the hour and a bit that we have been chatting, I've really learned that you went down the rabbit hole the right way. You really did. And so many
Mhm.
people out there who claim about being star seeds or Pleiadians or of the peace, love, and light, they only dip their pinky toe in that spiritual pool to the point that it's almost like a facade that they are putting up in
It
front of
is.
them. And it's
Yes.
funny because I was actually at one of the spiritual stores here in my little town earlier
Mhm.
today, and they know me well around there, and they know, usually when I go in, they're always like, "Hey, tell me what's going on." Kind of, get some sort of spiritual message for them. And I consider myself intuitive. I don't consider myself psychic or anything like that because I don't practice it enough in order
Mhm.
to kind of tap in. But there was this one young girl there who works there. She's like 23 years old, and she's just going down the road. If you know what I'm talking about, the
Uh-huh.
rabbit hole. And as her and I were chatting, one of the things that I had explained to her was about beware of people who put up these facades,
Mhm.
because what happens is when you meet spiritual people, everybody wants to talk about it. It's a great conversation to have, but there's so many people out there who believe they're in the know when really they don't know. They just know that, there's angels and guides, and they don't see the bigger picture of everything. So how do you expand the people you work with to see that bigger picture, to remove the facade that it's not all about peace, love, and light, but we can get there. We have to work to get there. And the phenomena is all about giving you the good with the bad, with
Mhm.
what you can handle and what you cannot handle.
I really try to wake you're so right about that spiritual facade, and that what I refer to as the spiritual ego, which is when the ego um operates with a spiritual facade, but it's really all about um trying to present yourself in a certain light, which is not then really all that authentic. But showing people that spirituality, really the meat and taters of it is doing your shadow work, going into the darker aspects, because you, in order to ascend, you have to face your darkness. You have to face your fears. You have to face your wounds. You have to go into those darker spaces. So you cannot have the light without the dark. And if you only do what's referred to as toxic positivity, where you only want to focus on the love and light, then you are basically trying to avoid and escape having to look at your own shadow, your own wounding, your own ego. And then you're not going to achieve any degree of soulful ascension and elevation of consciousness, because you're not going to do the necessary work.
Do too many people talk about this? Do too many people want to be the center of attention regarding this subject? So that's the reason why they're always, listen to me, like these poor ladies. I don't call them poor ladies, they're very gifted ladies, but they have these talks with people each and every day in that little shop.
Yeah.
And my gathering and my message to them was, stop listening. Stop listening to everybody, because
Mhm.
not everybody's advice is correct. Not everybody's connection is correct.
Yes. And I think too many people put too much weight outside of themselves. And they seek a lot of things exoterically by asking psychics and mediums and da 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 da. And it's not to say that can't be helpful, but it becomes a problem when you give it too much weight and you rely too strongly on it, as opposed to allowing it to be more of a way to affirm and confirm things that you already feel intuitively are true and right for you. Or when you hear someone say something that doesn't resonate, you can go, okay, what that person said actually doesn't resonate with me, so I'm going to stick with what's true for me. But I like that it felt dissonant, because that helps me know that I can let what that person said go, and I can hold on to what feels true and right for me. So it's not that you can't ask people things and get information outside of yourself, but it's not to attach to it as if that's the truth. And I think a lot of other people, I don't want to say center of attention, I think they don't feel and see their own value and their own worth and the degree to which they are awesome. And I mean that in the true sense of the word, their true awesomeness, that they then have to use their knowledge, their wisdom, and the information that they think they have, and kind of proselytize it as a way to feel important and as a way to feel special, to try to convince themselves of it, because on some level they don't feel that about themselves. Does that make any sense when I say that? Like,
I think it makes great sense. It
okay.
really,
It's like I
yeah.
have to convince you that I know a lot and convince you of how special I am, because I don't see it for myself. So if you can believe it about me, then maybe I can learn to believe that about me.
Let's go to Guy in Calgary. Can you channel a living person?
In a weird way, once I did, yes. But I will say this. This person was someone's father, and he had severe Alzheimer's. And when you have Alzheimer's or dementia, you are in essence half in this world and half in the fourth density or the astral plane. And so they can feel like someone. I thought this person was crossed over, because that's how this person. It felt like a human that had crossed over. I had no idea this person was living, and the client said, "Well, he has Alzheimer's. He's not dead." And I was like, "Oh, well, that explains it. He has Alzheimer's." So in that respect, yeah, you can. I learned that from experience. Only one time though, but yes.
Perfect. I didn't know that was possible.
I didn't either. I was like, really? But I already knew that if you have Alzheimer's and dementia, that you're kind of slowly transitioning over years, sometimes less, but over years, from the your consciousness being focused solely in physical, and then into the fourth density or the spirit realm.
No kidding. No kidding. See, I just thought that the fact that when you're human, you've kind of locked in your soul into your body, and you cannot do that communication. But I guess if telepathy is real, you should be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And with someone's consciousness, yes, that's true. But then, you can channel someone else's higher self, and tap into their subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind and the higher self are always in direct communication. So, yeah.
All right, let's move on to another question from our audience, because questions are good tonight. And if you want to ask questions, if you're listening in Radio Land, you got to be on our YouTube channel in order to get them in. Let's go to Jorgensen here, or Jorgensen. I like a soft J personally. Right, Jennifer? Any advice for combating PTSD? I'm tired of just managing. I feel there's much more than just taking prescription meds in continuous zombie mode.
Yeah. I mean, just off the top of my head, the first few things that I would suggest is starting a meditation practice. Understanding, of course, that meditation is called a practice for a reason, because you're never going to have a silent mind for 5, 10, 20 minutes straight at your first go. Practicing breath work that will elongate the breath and increase the inhalation. I can give more information on the types of breathwork practices that you can do this is pretty much for everybody in a little bit, but also looking at different ways of using eye gaze, eye movement. So was it EMDR, but other using eye movements while connecting with those traumatic experiences to the degree that you feel comfortable, and then allowing yourself to process those things, and then attaching a positive feeling and a positive experience to that, so that you're sort of replacing the negative with the positive. And I'm giving what is really a very long explanation what is really a very long explanation, a very short explanation. So
yeah. Sorry,
just
I read the question wrong. It's combat PTSD.
Yes, I read it right. I knew it. Yes. And
okay.
So that's where, yeah. So that's where you want to do it to the degree that you feel comfortable. But then the idea is to then find a positive, happy, joyful thought and image that you can then connect that with, so that those things can be flushed from your nervous system. Another thing would be looking at traumatic release exercises. Because it's with combat PTSD, I wouldn't do that without an appropriate practitioner, which I am not. But traumatic release exercises are very, very beneficial. Any type of breath work and yoga to release the fascia and to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, and to release the trauma from your nervous system.
Great advice.
There are a lot of options, or a lot of things that you can do.
Great advice. And Jorgensen, thank you so much for your services.
Yes,
Seriously,
thank you.
we love our veterans around here. So thank you. Let's go to Android. I have a tethered spinal cord that's caused a lot of nerve damage. After I get surgery, what list of things do you recommend to heal nerves?
So again, increasing your circulation will help. Anything that can increase your circulation and getting blood to the nerves. Again, breath work and meditation, which sounds like it shouldn't relate, but it does relate. There are also some supplements that can help with that. That you can look into. Off the top of my head, I'm blanking. I know there's some of them, they're B vitamins, but off the top of my head, I'm blanking. So it's because it's 1:30 in the morning here. But I would start with doing things that will increase your circulation and get your breath moving. So any type of aerobic work, or any type of working out that will get blood flow to those nerves. And then again, breath work and meditation. Everybody should do breath work and meditation, period.
All right. I'm doing mine right now. You just can't hear it because I breathe properly.
And drink water. Everybody should be drinking at least half their body weight in ounces of water as well. That will also help with nerve healing.
T-Bone is wondering, Jennifer, what is an Arcturian starseed?
So an Arcturian starseed is someone who has had a lifetime in the timeline that corresponds with the sun Arcturus. So suns are basically portals to different timelines, or they are placeholders for different timelines of what I'm going to say is Earth, just very different versions of Earth. And so that's why the Pleiadians and the Pleiadian star system and all these stars, as opposed to planets, because these are not planets, these are stars, relate to different, what we see as being humanoid beings. These are just different versions of us in different timelines and in different levels of ascension. And so it's someone who's had an experience in that particular timeline and that particular version of Earth at that particular ascension level. I hope that answered that question.
All right, we've got about 30 seconds here before we have to go to break. So what we're going to do is we are going to continue with audience questions when we return on the show for the final half hour that we will have Jennifer Passavant. If you want her website, it's pretty easy. JenniferPassavant.com is her website. I highly suggest you check it on out. I mean, her messages and her clarity on this subject, you can tell it's second to none. It really is second to none. And we're proud to have her on Spaced Out Radio for the first time and hopefully not the last. This is Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to go to break here. The second half of the show is right around the corner. Stay tuned, everybody.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear.
Awesome. Someone was asking about remote Reiki and questioning whether or not remote energy healing is beneficial. So maybe that's something we could address, because I think that's a really good question. A lot of people don't know or understand about that.
Let me find out. Where is that question? This is why I ask you guys. This is why I ask you guys to put your questions in capital letters, darn it.
Some of them are. Well, and this wasn't a question. This was something that I happened to see in the chat. And I thought it would be a really good thing to address, because a lot of people don't know. It was Android Paranormal. I'm considering contacting her. But even though I believe in Reiki, I'm highly skeptical of remote Reiki, which a lot of people are, because they assume that you have to be present in order to send energy. So that's an understandable question.
You know, I never believed in Reiki until I was going through a real stressful time, to the point like my back was killing me every day and I was having migraines. I was having at least 3 to 5 migraines a week. Like brutal stress. And it was to the point I couldn't even straighten my back.
Oh my gosh.
It hurt so much. And so my partner says to me, you know, I'm going to put my hands on, I'm going to do some Reiki on you. Do you mind? And I was so fed up. I was like, sure, not a problem. Try it. Try your little woo crap that you do, whatever, you know. And so she goes, okay, I'm going to start. And she goes, do you feel this? And I'm like, nope, feel nothing, just pain. And then she goes, okay, do you feel this? And I'm like, nope. And then all of a sudden I started screaming and I was like, get your hands off my back. I don't know what the hell you're doing, but get them off my back. And she goes, I'm not even touching you. I turned around and she was almost 3 feet away. It was the craziest thing.
And that's remote. That's remote energy healing. Technically.
And I was like, this is so weird. Like, because I was mad because she was hitting all of these real painful spots on my back, and it felt like her hands were on my back, and they weren't. She was 3 feet away.
Yeah.
Right. And it was nut bar. So I've been a fan since then.
Another thing that I think might be helpful for people to understand too is that, how do I want to put this? Energy healers don't actually heal you. They facilitate energy movement, and provide the opportunity for healing. But the rest of it is all on you, and your body just takes over. And if it's for mental and emotional and spiritual things, you then have to do your own inner work in order for that energetic shift to be made permanent. Otherwise, your energy will go right back to the way it was before the energy healing. So no healer can relinquish you of your responsibility to do your own inner work and to do your own healing. We just provide the opportunity and facilitate sort of the initial energy movement, much to the chagrin of maybe a lot of people, but
Well, you know what? Hey, sometimes it's okay to be a facilitator.
yeah,
It really
and I like that. I like that only because it is actually empowering for others then, as opposed to you giving your power away to this person to do your healing for you. Um, I like that it's quite empowering to the client. It's just a lot of people don't want that responsibility. They want to be able to give their power away. Be like, just
right.
fix it so I don't have to deal with it.
Android says, I'm a 100% believer in holistic healing through healthy diet, hydration, exercise, meditation, and even Reiki, but highly skeptical of the remote Reiki. Can you explain how that works? We'll get to that when we come back from the break. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you to Android ×2, W Decker ×2, Necessary Dialogue, Babylon, Aloha Dave, T-Bone ×2, Dutch Hank, and Cosmic Joe for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support, everybody. It really helps out what we do. So thank you. And drink your water. Otherwise, you're going to have nightmares about Jennifer later on. She's going to come hunt you, and she's going to pour water down your throat. Yeah.
I'm going to visit you in astral travel and be like, drink your water.
Absolutely. Hi, Crystal J. How are you?
This is my third leader, by the way.
Biofuel Brad, I am a BC Lions fan. I'm not a Bombers fan. Sorry. Not since the days of Dieter Brock. All right, here we go, everybody. We're going to have some fun here going into the next half hour. We're going to get to your questions. Here we go. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in. We're learning about channeling tonight. It's all good in the hood when it comes to that. Yeah. Imagine channeling spirits and entities through your voice. Would you do it? That's a head scratcher right there if you haven't. I'll let you think about that. Jennifer Passavant is our guest. We have her till the top of the hour. We're going to take more audience questions here momentarily. But first, we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, did you know all of our archives are always free? Yeah, we keep them free for you. We don't charge for them like the other shows. Yep. You could go to Spotify. You can go to iHeartRadio, any major podcast network, or on youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do me the favor. The only thing I want in return is hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button, whatever it may be on the platform you use. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's Jennifer Passavant, jenniferpassavant.com. We're going to take some audience questions, Jennifer, to round this half hour up. I told you this show would fly by the way.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, we're fun around here. We're loads of fun.
Yeah,
a plethora of funness on the mighty.
Absolutely. I'm having a great time.
Mm-hmm. I figured that. I'm going to just pat myself on the back for that right now.
As well you should.
All right. Android says, I'm highly skeptical of remote Reiki. Can you explain how it works?
Yeah, and I think that's a really great question because I think people assume that if the person is there and has hands on you, then that's more impactful. But what I actually learned is that for me, it's more impactful for the person to be remote. And so let me explain first that remote, so time and space technically doesn't exist, right? Which means that energy healing, whether it is sent in person or remotely, is no less. It's not, time and space can't dilute the energy. But what I learned, I used to do healing sessions in person in my home, and they were exhausting, absolutely exhausting. And my mom passed away, and so obviously then I live by myself, so I'm not going to have people in my home, and so I made the decision to do them remotely. And that was a game changer. It was so much more powerful for both me and the client, because then the veneer of judgment for both what the client thought about me and the weird things I was doing, and what the client thought I might be thinking about them, was totally taken away. And I was able to channel directly, direct message. I was able to visualize an etheric version of their body and go into the beings that I work with would put my hands inside their etheric body and work on a specific organ. It was, they could feel the energy more palpably. So it actually made it more powerful for it to be remote. But I will say too, your belief in it can block the blessing. So if you don't think it's going to work, it won't work for you because you've decided that that's the case. But that's how remote energy healing can work, is that energy doesn't need time and space, because time and space don't exist. And that energy transcends time and space. Also,
All right,
I don't do Reiki. Technically, I don't do Reiki.
All right. I get you.
I'm trained in it, but I channel the beings,
Yes.
and they send their respective energies through me, is how I work. And they move my body.
Let's go to Night Watch. What does it feel like when you channel? And if one were to stick around, do you begin to feel as if you're losing yourself?
That's a good question. So the first answer to that question is it depends on who I'm channeling. So when I'm channeling the Seraph angel that I work with, it's very energizing, and he feels a little bit like some subtle electricity. But when I'm channeling Kuan Yin, the Ascended Master of Compassion and Mercy, her energy feels like warm water, and she puts my hands in like different mudras when I work. It's fascinating. As far as afterwards, so they're always around. The beings, I refer to them as my spiritual entourage, because our guides and the beings that we work with are never gone, because there is no here and there is no there. So they're always with me. But I never feel like I'm losing myself, because we as channelers are always in control. And so there is no concern about losing ourselves. So I hope that answers your question.
T-Bone would like to know, Jennifer, what can you tell us about the Arcturian Council?
So the Arcturian Council would be sort of like how Earth has the Great White Brotherhood. The Arcturian Council is that timeline and dimension of Earth's version of that. So it's their ascended council that helps to guide and support us through our soulful ascension while we're on this particular planet in this particular time, if that makes sense. And what I love about all of the Blue Lodge of Sirius, the Arcturian Council, the Pleiadian Council, the our Great White Brotherhood, we all have access to them. We can all connect with them. And even if we don't consciously receive an answer, we can still use meditation and prayer to connect with them and receive guidance and support and healing with them. So they're really wonderful beings to work with.
All right, let's move on here. And next up is Sierra. Jennifer, when you look at your own shadow and you feel guilty for something now that you live in your heart, what can you do to not punish yourself and to have compassion for the person you were?
That's a great question. Thank you for that, Sierra. Learning to forgive yourself. So what would you say to somebody else that was doing that to themselves? You would say, you know what? You're human. You make mistakes. You know, you're not going to be perfect. And what happened, happened. But what matters now is that you now know better, and you didn't have any ill intent, or at least I'm operating under the assumption that you didn't have any ill intent. And that's really what's important. And so it's time for you to let that go and stop beating yourself up for it, because it's not serving you. It's only holding you back. So basically saying to yourself what you would say to someone else in that situation. What my guides had me do for something that I was working through, that I was feeling very guilty of, was I had to say to myself out loud, I forgive myself. And I had to say it enough times where an emotion, that emotion of guilt and sadness had to come up, and I started crying, and I had to say it until that feeling lifted and the emotions stopped erupting, and I was left with a sense of peace. And when I said I forgive myself, it felt true to me. It no longer felt like a lie. So that's another thing you can do, but truly say to yourself what you would say to somebody else in your shoes.
If I may add to that for a moment, if you
Please,
don't mind.
please.
One of the things that I have learned, because I'm somebody who I'm very public about suffering from depression and anxiety. And the reason why I talk about it is being a public figure. There's a lot of people out there, especially men, who don't want to admit that we have mental illness.
Hmm.
And I think one thing that has helped me heal is this show, talking, talking
Yeah.
about subjects, talking about it, and also being able to admit it publicly that I suffer
Hmm.
from it.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I really understand with what Sarah is saying, I think one of the most important lines in what she's saying is, now that you live in your heart, here's what I've
Hmm.
learned about the heart. Hearts break. I
Hmm.
never listen to my heart, ever, because the heart will lie to you to make you feel good. The soul always is honest. The soul is your connection to the upper part of whatever you believe in. In my case, it's God and the phenomena. Okay. And I listen to what my soul has to say, because I know my heart can lead me in directions that and paths that I don't want to go. But I know my soul, because it's eternal, will always be true to me. What's your thoughts on that?
So I actually don't agree with that. I would say that the part that you feel is breaking, how shall I say this? Your heart breaks because of love. Your heart is love, right? And so though your heart can break, and your heart can desire, it doesn't mean it's steering you wrong. Heartbreak isn't a mistake. Having non preferred experiences is not wrong, right? So the heart is where your Christ consciousness is. That's where the kingdom of heaven is, right? The kingdom of heaven is within you, and it's in your heart space. That's where your Christ is. And so when you live in the heart and you live in your Christ, that is where compassion, mercy, grace, love, and gratitude reside. That doesn't mean that you can't allow yourself to be heartbroken, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your heart. Your heart will always steer you right, even though it also has the capacity to hurt. So I would say, with regard to how you have compassion for yourself, as I said before, it's giving yourself the same level of forgiveness, grace, compassion, mercy, and love that you would give to anybody else.
See, I can understand your explanation. I'm going to, respectfully
Please push back.
disagree.
Please push back. Yes, that's fine.
But that's okay. We're allowed to have that conversation. And
Absolutely.
at least in my case, I have learned that if I follow my heart, it usually leads me down a path of emotion that does
Non-preferred.
not, yeah, that is non-preferred. But my
Non-preferred.
soul is something that I know is true. It has a connection to my soul, my God, my everything that I believe in spiritually, and I know that's always going to be truthful. That's
Can
the
I
way
give
I have
you?
been able to define it.
Yes. And you're not wrong. And that's why I said your heart can experience non-preferred feelings. But let me give you, because you're not wrong about that. I don't disagree with that. But what I would say though is that when your heart guides you, to an experience that results in a non-preferred response, a non-preferred emotion like heartbreak, heartache, grief, that's us placing judgment on that experience, but that experience is necessary for soulful growth, soulful healing. It's like you cannot know who you are until you know who you're not. You don't know what needs healing until you experience those non-preferred and heartaches, heartbreaks, and grief experiences. So it's not that the heart led you down the wrong path. It's that the path was uncomfortable. The path was non-preferred, but it is those pains and those heartaches and those heartbreaks that are the crux of where our ability to see what needs healing, and where we can change how we respond to things, and where we can see what wound we might be operating from that caused the heartache, heartbreak, grief. So it's our perception, our human perception, is that it was a wrong path, but I would say that it was the right path for what we needed. Does that make sense when I say that? And again, you can still disagree, but that's how I interpret
It
it.
does, and I think that's a logical argument. I really do believe on that. But I just, we can only go by what our own experience tells us. And the
For sure.
beautiful part about this is everybody's experience, from what I have seen, there may be some generalities, but everybody's experience is their own path.
Mhm.
And you have to do in the end what works for you. You could
100%.
seek advice. You could seek advice, but it doesn't mean that the advice you're getting is proper for your own path that you're going on. I
Mhm.
think we can agree on that.
100%.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to another audience question here. These are great questions. Thank you for that. Just Min is saying, I heard Reiki was demonic in nature. Is this a misconception?
Do you think it's a misconception?
I
Because
present.
when I say you, I mean the asker, and I say that because does that really make sense to you that healing would be demonic? You know, um, I would say only you can decide if you think it's demonic. To me, energy healing, whether it's Reiki, whether it's quantum touch, whether it's Chios healing, there are myriads of types of energy healing. Reiki is just the most common, is channeling divine energy to which we all have a connection. If that's demonic to you, then yes, it is. If it's not demonic to you, if that sounds beautiful and holy and compassionate, then it's not. But I'm going to let you decide.
Once again, is that not in everybody's path? You may not have had it. It's just like there's good psychics and bad psychics, and there's psychics of the light and psychics of the dark. I mean,
Uh-huh.
all depends
And
on who you're really dealing with.
yes, and everyone has the capacity to channel energy, and it can even do what we would perceive as healing, how do I want to say this? Regardless of the energy's frequency and source. So you can channel dark energies and it can create a sensation of healing, but there will always be a consequence. There will always be a price to pay when it's sourced from the dark.
Let's go back to Sierra here. Jennifer, what happens to people who are sociopaths or narcissists and really hurt people in this lifetime? Do they go to a hellish place after they die?
I
Well,
hate to
that
tell you
took a
this,
serious turn.
yeah, I hate to tell you this, but no. And I say that because hell is interpreted as a punishment, and that's not really what hell is. Hell is the lower fourth density that people who have soulfully devolved would go. And though sociopaths and narcissists are deeply, deeply wounded, you have to really, how do I say this? You have to really do, you have to have several lifetimes of continued soulful devolvement, soulful devolution, in order to end up in what would be referred to as the lower fourth dimension, hell, the eighth sphere, pick your terminology. But narcissists and sociopaths could be considered just deeply, deeply wounded people. And so they are then when they transition, like all of us, they are shown how they treated other people, and they were made to feel and experience what they put other people through as an opportunity to then decide, okay, do you want to go into another lifetime, be that same way, in order to give you yet another opportunity to operate differently and make a new choice in order to shift to a higher level of consciousness and a higher level of soulful healing. So it really depends on the level of soulful degradation and devolvement, if that makes sense.
Oh, my. Okay, let's get to another question here. Let us go next to Babylon. Jennifer, are DMT elves here to help us?
So my perspective of this is like, yes and no. I see them more as, how do I want to put this? An aspect of the elemental realm that help to construct what we perceive as being our physical realm, the third density. So it's more like they help to provide for us what we perceive as being physicality. They provide what we perceive as density. So in a way, yes, that helps us so that we can have what looks and feels like a real physical experience. Like, here's my water bottle, here's my mouse, here's my body, here's my physical experience, and we need that. But they're not like guides, and they're not like, and they can also, like some elementals, be a little deceptive. They are sometimes referred to as archonic beings because they create this third density. So I would see them I would primarily see them as neutral, but they are helpful in that they create this third density in this physical realm. They construct it. Does that make sense? God, I hope I made sense.
You're making great sense. You know how I know you're making sense?
Thank
Because you and Samantha Mowat, one of my psychic lady, and she's just a hero of mine. You both end
Okay.
all your sentences with, "Does that make sense?"
Yeah, because I
That's how
have
I
no
know it.
idea. Good, because I have no idea if I'm saying it in a way that makes sense to anybody other than myself.
All right, we got just under 4 minutes left with you. JenniferPassavant.com is Jennifer's website. Let's go to Biofuel. Brad, when you channel, do you remember what you have said, or do you need to refer to a recording in the session?
That's a great question. Usually immediately afterwards, I can remember most of it, but not all of it. Sometimes I have to have the client like refresh my memory. And then it doesn't take long for it to go away. And I refer to that as psychic amnesia because it's not for me and it didn't come from me. So immediately, yes, mostly. After a while, nope.
I get that. The first time I ever channeled was when I saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes.
Mhm.
And 2 hours later, I to me, channeling was grabbing a remote control and flipping through the channels as quickly as you could. Knew nothing about it. But that first night, I'll
Mhm.
tell you, I knew when he spoke through me to tell me how to keep my mom alive. And I've
Yeah,
lost my mom since. I lost her almost a year ago now.
I'm sorry for
Um,
you.
it it was it was quite emotional.
Yeah.
And I remembered, to this day, I only remembered bits and pieces of it. The rest of
Mhm.
it, I have no clue. It's kind of like they always say, like when you do your wedding vows, you'll never remember them afterwards.
Yeah. Yep. That's very true.
Let's sneak in one more question from Just Min here. We got 2 minutes to go. What if you hurt people in the past when you were young and didn't comprehend your actions, but you have changed? Are you automatically cast into the same category as truly cruel individuals?
No. Nope. I, that's the answer. Flat no.
Yeah.
No, especially even when you were young and you didn't understand what you were doing. Even then you weren't cruel because you didn't understand what you were doing. If you had cruel intentions and you meant to do it and you fully understood what you were doing, Yeah. But if you didn't, of course not. And then, of course, now when you can look back and go, ooh, wow, what the heck was I thinking? I didn't even know what I was doing back then, but gosh, that was terrible. Only someone with a good heart would even be able to do that. So congratulations.
Jennifer, we just have over a minute left with you tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and this is 2 hours of programming that is literally flown on by. It has flown on by, and it has been amazing radio tonight. And I want to say a big thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. And thank you to the people asking the questions and the audience. I really appreciate it. And I know Dave appreciates the super chats and whatnot. So thanks so much, you guys.
Do me a favor, take a few seconds here. So we got about 45 to tell everybody where they can find you, your work, and more information about what you do.
Yeah, well, the easiest place is to go to www.jenniferpassavant.com. And from there, if they, read through my website, that if they still have questions, they can reach out to me through email. They can send me a text. They can use my contact form. They can find me on Facebook. They can find me on Instagram and just reach out and ask questions. So, but I love hearing from people. So if you have any questions or you want to know anything, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, JenniferPassavant.com, once again, is her website. Coming up next on the show, we're going to go into Steve Stockton's realm from Among the Missing with another spooky story. Then after that, our good friend Nicole Sakic is going to join us for UFO Court. Nick Pope is in the news. We'll get a reaction to Congressman Garcia. We got a lot of stuff going on, so make sure you stick around. Spaced Out Radio's
You're
Hour 3 is
listening
next.
to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
You were amazing.
Thank you. I
Amazing.
wish my internet connection was better.
It still worked. It still worked, man.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, it worked out well. It worked out well. So thank you so much for doing this. That
Thank
was
you for
so much
having me.
fun.
Yeah, it was. That was a blast. I loved the weirder the better. This was so great. This was so
Yeah.
much fun. I was there were so many other things that I wanted to talk about, like like Nick Pope and oh God, Lou Elizondo and
We'll,
all that
we'll
garbage. I
just
was really hoping to go down that road too, but there
we
was
could
just
go down that. We could go down that road next time. We can
okay.
do this.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever heard of Dark Journalist?
Yeah.
I love his work. He's done such a great job of exposing those CIA posers. He's so good.
Yeah.
And if you don't know Gigi Young, look her up too. And look up
I will
her what is it? Cosmic Disclosure playlist. And Mars Mysteries, actually. Whew.
I will. Let's talk soon, my friend. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Go
Have a great rest of your night.
Go hit your pillow.
Gonna.
Good night.
All right. Bye.
Isn't she just amazing? She is so amazing. Man, we're lucky to have her tonight. Lucky. All right, I'll be right back. And commercial break. I am back. R2D2, how you doing? Nicole is in the green room. We're ready for another good hour here on the show. And just in case you're listening, I am Pam. I am Pam. I am Pam. Here we go, everybody. I am Pam. Hard to believe we're already in the third hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Hope you're enjoying tonight's show. And, yeah, this show's flying by. Wow. So, when you have a good guest like Jennifer Passavant, it flies on by and you're like, where did that time go? Really? Where did that time go? I have no idea, but it's a great show so far. All right, let's continue on. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Academicism. Academicism is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's that time of the night we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another weird, spooky story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. In 1947, a ghost ship named the Orang Medan was found floating near the Indonesian coastline. The crew was discovered deceased, with their eyes open and faces frozen in fear. The radio operator was also found deceased, with his hand on the Morse code key, sending an incomprehensible message. Other ships nearby reported witnessing this eerie occurrence. For decades, the story of the Orang Medan has been widely shared, particularly among people interested in maritime mysteries and paranormal phenomena. However, some have questioned its credibility due to inconsistencies, unverified information in the story, and lack of concrete evidence to support it. Furthermore, the absence of any known photographs or physical evidence of the ship or its crew makes it challenging to verify the story. There is no clear explanation for what might have caused the crew's deaths. While some have suggested that the ship might have been carrying dangerous cargo, no evidence supports this theory. Others have suggested that the crew might have been exposed to toxic gases or other environmental hazards, but again, no concrete evidence supports this idea. The story of the Orang Medan is a fascinating and mysterious tale that's captured people's interest worldwide. It has been the subject of numerous books, articles, and documentaries, leading to endless theories and speculations about what happened to the crew.
Thank you, Steve Stockton, for another great story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, hit subscribe, ring that bell. He'd really appreciate it. And he'll keep providing stories for us to kick off each Monday through Friday night. All right, from the missing to the mysterious, we got Nicole Sackage here. It's time for UFO Court.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Nicole, I know our radio audience cannot see this, but you literally have a beer stein full of coffee right now.
I do.
How does one drink that much coffee at this time of night?
To join SOR, of course. That's how you do it. It's how you get it done, Dave. This is called a time maker right here.
This is
Time
very
maker. This is
all
how you
right.
make time, Dave.
See, I don't drink coffee. I don't.
I'm sorry.
And I can tell you that I'm 51 years old, and I've probably had 12 cups of coffee my entire life. Just never got into coffee.
I do that in a day, Dave.
I know. I know. I couldn't imagine. But yeah, I'm a weirdo that way.
I
Not a
will
coffee.
say most of it tastes like crap. But when you find a really good one and you grind your beans yourself, yeah, then it can be your own crap.
Now be honest. How many back in the day when you were a kid, how many of those big metal tins of Sanka coffee did your parents have around the house?
That was probably too expensive for my family.
I mean, remember those big tins of orange and Sanka?
Yes,
What-
it was like a battle in my household between Folgers and Maxwell House. So,
All
and
right.
then I discovered, other brands of coffee. So, yeah. No Sanka.
No. Yeah, nobody seems to know even the internet doesn't even know what happened to Sanka. I think Sanka is becoming a Mandela effect because
That's what I was just gonna say.
it just kind of vanished and everybody knows about it, but be damned if you could find it. Like even on Google, I typed in what happened to Sanka coffee, and it says Sanka is the brand of instant decaffeinated coffee sold around the world and was one of the earliest decaffeinated varieties. Sanka is distributed in the United States by Kraft Heinz. But is it really? Because nobody even sees Sanka coffee anymore, those big orange tins.
It says here you can get it at a cafe in Ovid, New York.
So from international decaffeinated coffee to one little outlet in New York. Look at that. Look at that.
And apparently you can get it on Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It might take you 2 months to get it in Canada. I'm just saying, like,
Probably. You haven't seen the delivery service around here.
no, it's crazy though. Dirty Filth sent me some ketchup potato chips, and I mean, it took like 2 months to get here from Canada, and I will say my box of food was opened and pillaged through. So
They probably
somebody at customs got some tasty Canadian food.
They probably took a bite out of the coffee crisp just to try it out, and some ketchup chips. They took them.
I think one bag of ketchup chips was missing, honestly. And I'm sure that got taken on the US side because you just can't get them here. You can't get them here.
Absolutely, it did. All right, let's get right to the UFO stuff because you were looking into Nick Pope today, the former member of the MOD, which sounds so badass until you realize it's, Ministry of Defense for the UK.
That's all right.
What is he doing?
Well, he was applauding this UK legislation. That's or I'm sorry, not the UK legislation. This new white paper put out that Stoll has put out, and it's by a UK lady. and it's in support of legislation and UAP language that they want introduced in the UK. So it's interesting. I didn't make it through the entire white paper because I was still reading another 36-minute read and another 46 pages of the UAP amendment that Garcia introduced. But I sent along the Nick Pope because I was also triggered by our conversation we had the other day about Nick Pope's hair and Joe Merge's hair and Georgia Tsoukalos's hair. So when I saw Nick Pope's hair was making some news today, I thought I would share it with you.
The scariest thing that could ever happen in ufology is either Joe Mergia or Nick Pope drop something and both of them go to pick it up at the same time. Their hair is going to interlock as strong as Velcro. We may never get them apart. We may never get them apart, Nicole.
That's all right. That's all right. As long if they would put their hair and their minds together, I think disclosure would happen.
Probably two brilliant minds there. That is for sure. We love Joe Mergia around here. I know Joe's probably listening somewhere in Vegas right now while he's having a wine spritzer because he's a wine spritzer kind of guy. Okay, and we love Joe Mergia around here. We do.
Well, Joe Mergia was also fighting the good fight on Twitter today. So he had lots to say about the Garcia amendment being added in. And he was also fighting with my pal, Stephen Greenstreet. So I took note of that.
Well, let's continue with Nick Pope here for a few minutes, because in that white paper that you had sent to me earlier, I did read it. And one of the things that I noticed is that the UK does want to go down the scientific realm. Okay. And to me, it was very much similar to what Larry Maguire, from the MP from Brandon Souris in Manitoba, in Canada here, wanted to do and successfully helped put together the Sky Canada project by Dr. Mona Nemer, Canada's top scientist, whom you're very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to see the UK take that scientific route much like Canada? Because to me, if they are, that to me really puts a sense that the two Commonwealth countries are talking.
I think that's apparent. I think this even harkens back to, was it when Grant and I were on last Friday? Somebody asked us where we thought disclosure was going or where it's at right now. And I think my answer to that was, I think disclosure is currently in the UK. So, and I do think a lot of it is copying and repeating of this playbook and pushing the limits within, So I wasn't surprised. I think if I'm recalling correctly, your Canadian UAP event is even listed in the introduction of this white paper in the contents. So, and I think it gives a brief overview of the history of the UAP legislation from 1947, and then they get into the here and now. So, yeah, I think whatever's happened in U.S. disclosure is obviously a springboard that we're seeing in Canada and now in the UK. So,
is it surprising to you, Nicole, that with this latest news coming out of the UK, who's been extremely reserved about the UFO topic, not wanting to bring it up in Parliament, the defense ministers in the last few years have refused to comment on this subject? They've gone into denial that we've got bigger things to worry about than UAPs or UFOs, whatever you want to call it. Does this really show, though, that the Five Eyes, which are Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, and the UK, are really behind the scenes banding together and having serious defense conversations about this subject of UFOs?
I think, yes. I think, if not officially, I think it shows that there is back channeling happening and, behind closed doors conversation and at least sharing of information on that level, which I think, as with all kind of politics and legislation. This comes down to probably aides behind the scenes doing a lot of work with activists in the community and in the field. So I think this shows probably that pattern of grassroots element, coming to fruition. We saw that here in the US. I think we're starting to see it in the UK, sort of in this one using the other to validate, if that makes sense. And so hopefully the reverse is these other countries coming forward in the Five Eyes and showing that there is support for this will throw pressure back in the US to continue holding hearings and pushing this sort of legislation. So,
One of the questions that I have for you, though, is if we see the United Kingdom going down the same road as Canada with the fact that they want a more scientific study rather than a threat narrative that we have been dealing with over the last number of years coming out of the US, considering that the US is the allied global leader of protection and just the leader in case anything happens in the world, to see two of the closest allies to the US go against the grain and go scientific on this rather than threat narrative, do you think that's concerning at all to the overall message of what Canada, the United Kingdom think about this topic regarding the threats that we hear coming out of the States?
I don't really look at it as going against the grain per se. I look at it as in addition to the threat narrative. I think the playbook at hand is showing that this threat narrative, whether we think it's good or bad, is at least showing a path of seriousness, with legislation and getting people within government and the military to take this topic seriously. So if we can talk about it being a possibility of a threat and then maybe eventually rule that out, which I think parallels what we say about the Condon Committee shutting down disclosure in the past. If we can get past that point where our military and government and defense deem it a non-threat, then it's natural that if there is something credible there, that it will be shuffled into science and academia and more, I guess, peaceful avenues, non-threatening avenues. So I think that pattern, has shown that it works, whether it's the best one, it at least in the moment it's working. But I do think the moment of truth will be if we can get past if it's not a threat, then what do we do about it? And I think this white paper expresses that, or at least it's trying to address it in the what are the consequences if we do nothing. So that'll be something to pay attention to.
It's going to be real interesting to see how that actually plays out, because to me, if I see the big bad United States coming out saying, as we have, saying that we got to watch out for our skies. I mean, look at David Fravor, look at Ryan Graves, both coming out saying we got to protect pilots, we need to protect our military air forces. We need to make sure aviators are safe, whether they're civilian or military. These things they're out to get us. Really pushing a safety concern for pilots, and yet Canada has come out and said, well, no, we don't have any UFO threats. Great Britain or the UK now coming out with the same type of scientific study, unless this has been put to by the US saying, look, we'll do the threat thing, you guys do the scientific thing, and then we'll amalgamate everything together. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, I do. I agree with that. You said it in more eloquent way than I did, I think.
I think you were way more eloquent than my blue collar. What the hell are you saying kind of thing. I really do. All right. We got about 3.5 minutes before we need to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Nicole Sakic is here for UFO Court. When we look at the final stages of this event, why would Nick Pope get so excited about this? I mean, this is a guy who, to some people is very controversial regarding this subject, whether or not he actually did look into the UFO topic in the United Kingdom and worked in that area for a while. Why do you think this personality would get so excited? Because finally we're getting something out of the UK? Is it that simple?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know how everybody feels. I know people tease about Nick Pope and, he's had some interesting affiliations over the years. He's a staple with the Ancient Aliens crew now. He did the basement office with notorious scandalous skeptic Stephen Greenstreet, which, at the time, everybody seemed to enjoy that show and loved that coupling and perspective. I really started enjoying Nick Pope's work and paying attention to him when he really came forward to Jim Peniston and John Burroughs and was so helpful with them finding out information about the Rendlesham Forest case. And I think when I look back at the last 20 years of ufology, there's been some scandalous people come out of the UK, in ufology, whether you want to say they're good or bad. And I think Nick Pope has been tried and true and consistent. So I sort of think anything that's happening in UK ufology should sort of have Nick Pope's stamp of approval on it to some extent, And if it doesn't, I would say maybe, there's something lacking there. So he has serious resources. So
I get that. My big thing with Nick Pope, though, is 9 times out of 10 leading up to this story, he hasn't had an original thought. Everything he says on TV when he does his spots on Fox News or News Nation or whatever other media outlet is everything that people like Chris Mellon or Lou Elizondo have already stated. Give me an original
yeah.
thought. That's what I want. I want to like Nick Pope. I do. But give me an original thought. Tell me what's on your mind, little Nicky Pope.
I think he falls in that, purely safe realm of ufology, though. There's very few golden people like that in ufology. And I think 2 of them happen to be in the Ancient Aliens crew, and that's Nick and Giorgio. Just their characters alone and how they're perceived in our community. Like, they're pretty much untouchable. I mean, you don't hear scandalous things about them. They're always kind of championing for us to come together and do good work and spread the word. And, I enjoy people like that. I think those good voices reach more people eventually than the mean ones.
I hear you there, Nick. When we get back from the break here at the bottom of the hour, yesterday the Congressman Garcia amendment came out from California about UFOs, UAP, and whether or not we're going to dox the hell out of what's going on. And I want to get your opinion on this because I don't know if we're going to agree on whether this is a good amendment or bad. Spaced Out Radio continues with UFO Court next.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
What was that? What were you saying?
I said Dave Scott with our host, Dave Scott.
That's me. Yeah, that's me. I'm over here.
Playing the air guitar. I know you're backwards, though, like from how I need to point.
I'm looking at you right now. I'm looking at you right now. How do you like my garb? How do you like my garb for my Edmonton Oilers who won tonight?
You've been wearing a lot of orange and blue lately.
Yes, I have.
Yep.
I have.
I like my garb.
Hey guys, no politics in the chat room. You know the rules. Okay,
Only UFO politics.
that's it.
Only UFO politics.
I don't care about Trump. I don't care about Biden. The only politician you were allowed to say anything about in here is Dear Leader Trudeau. That's it. Because we have to call him Dear Leader here now.
Dear leader, what is there a story behind that?
Well, you know, the people in North Korea have to call Kim Jong-un Dear Leader, right?
Oh.
So,
Hmm.
so our dear leader here who loves the basic Chinese dictatorship, quote on him, not me. Right? So I like to call him Dear Leader because if you mention his name, you can now go to jail or mention or insult somebody on the air. It doesn't matter if it happened 10, 12 years ago. You can still go to jail for that now in Canada.
Is that because you're subjects and not citizens?
Dear Leader says he's protecting people from bullying and harassment on the internet. Yes. So, yes.
Are you sure you're not supposed to just call him like Tiny Overlord or something like that?
I am not taking the chance. Dear Leader is a polite way to put it. And I'm Canadian, so we're all polite. Paul Demon, how you doing? And if you guys don't believe me, you can actually look it up. And not on the alternative media sites. Look it up in the real news. It's right there.
Why am I having visions of Lord Farquaad from Shrek right now?
Don't worry. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Who's all in the chat tonight? I missed the intro.
You want me to read out everybody's name?
No, just everybody that says hi, Nicole.
The regulars are here. Oh, that was just Min. That was awesome when he got called wacko in the House of Commons. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. He's allowed to call us racist, misogynist, terrorists, everything, but we call him wacko and he goes absolutely berserk. Shaq Valet, how you doing, man? How's Norway today?
You know, with the two conferences happening, I'm really only hearing about one. What's up with that?
You mean, what's the other one? I know Contact in the Desert's going on.
SCU.
Oh, SCU. Yeah, nobody's speaking about SCU right now.
Right?
It's kind of
all
weird.
I heard about was Ross's like opening, and then that was it. I haven't heard anything else.
How'd that go for the Rossinator?
I got about 50-50 feedback, honestly.
I didn't agree with a lot of that harassment people were giving the SCU about having him as a speaker. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, was he really a speaker, or was he just kind of like opening the ceremonies? Because from what I saw, the agenda, like Hoffman and Micah Hanks were pretty much like running the show. Ross just did his opening.
Micah Hanks is a good speaker. I'm a big fan of his. Big fan.
Yeah, I used to get him mixed up with MJ Bananas. I mean, Banias.
Yeah. Yeah. What a gentle soul that is.
Mm-hmm.
Hated ufology, but he sure would support fake journalism and fake journalists.
Stop.
All right. Big thank you to Cosmic Joe, Dutch Hank, T-Bone with a hat trick, W Decker ×2, Aloha Dave, Babylon with 2, Android with 2, Necessary Dialogue, Kira, and that's all of you for the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. Here we go with the final half hour, everybody. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, I want to remind all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire. You can check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with Nicole Sackage on UFO Court. We're going to get into a subject that we did with Sweet Robbie G, and that's about Congressman Garcia out of California bringing in an amendment for disclosure. Nicole, what was your first thoughts on this?
Well, my first thoughts was that it got introduced quicker than I thought it would. We had heard kind of behind the scenes that there was going to be a reworking or a reemergence of the Schumer Amendment. And I've heard that the 3 parts that Garcia has introduced is kind of just the beginning of what's to come, that there's going to be more amendments introduced into the NDA 2025. So he's leading the charge here.
We went through, Sweet Robbie G and I went through all 47 pages of that.
Wow.
Yeah, we went through, and we read a lot of that on air for people who heard that show. There were points where I was very excited. Very excited. But as I read the report more and more, the excitement turned to just eye rolling, because there were segments in there where later on in the amendment, it really said, hey, this is what we're going for. This is what we're pushing for. We're pushing for disclosure. We want to bring this out to the public. We want to know what's going on, but we're just going to throw in a couple of caveats here about whether or not we're going to give people the opportunity to deny access to all of this. That happened a couple of times in that amendment. There always seems to be that yeah, but in these amendments, like that cover your butt kind of legislation that's usually written in Appendix 1A, number C, or number 3, pardon me. You know what I'm saying? And I saw a lot of that in this amendment, that, this is what we want to do, but we don't have to if we don't want to. That's not very democratic, Nicole.
I agree with that. I think I probably share a lot of your same concerns or disappointments. I think a lot of people across the Twitterverse are starting to sound off about it. One thing that I heard today was, what difference does introducing or reintroducing this legislation make now, since it's already been shot down? A version of it before has been shot down. But that's also the game of politics, like no amendment is ever like fully accepted, right out of the gate for what it is. It always gets torn apart. And I do think the best survive in some way, shape, or form and continue in this same pattern. They keep trying to push forward what they can, even if it does, get thrown out. I think that's sort of how negotiations go, and there is a saying, with true and good negotiations, that neither side is completely satisfied, so it's striking that balance of what you can get through without getting it axed. And so, are they purposefully including things that they know will get cut, to push through things, that maybe aren't worth fighting to cut? I don't know. There's always those little political games at hand. So it's hard to say. But other people chimed in, which I thought, well, Ryan Graves made his statement that, with this introduction or amendment being introduced, that it will require the FFA to accept UAP reports and protect pilots from retribution, which I think is a step further than, their reporting guidelines that have been introduced so far, So they're continuing that fight, and I think that's showing progress.
I have to say this about Ryan Graves. I think he's a brilliant man. I think he's somebody who is, has put his mind forward, and he's doing something about it. Not a lot of people do that in life. But at times I often wonder with him if it's all a political game for him and his business that he has set up, or his society that he has set up, or whether or not he believes this, because everything that passes, he's like right there. Yes, I'm in support of this. I'm in support. Like, it's almost like he doesn't read it. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't read right through. Just the minute a politician mentions UFOs or UAP in his case, that all of a sudden, yep, I'm in.
But see, I look at that as the other way. I think that's maybe he's hearing about all these steps that are leading up to this. You know what I mean? Like, he's truly an insider. So I think he's privy to the behind the scenes more than some of us, even diligent researchers, are. So I think with him coming out with quicker statements, that might show that how truly on the inside that he is. So
it could. And I'm not saying that, I'm not questioning his insider information. I'm not questioning that at all. The guy is obviously connected, and he's done a great job at promoting his company about safe airspace and everything like that. But it also goes with the threat narrative that, for the most part, is non-existent. And to me, that's just, playing games with the subject.
Well, if we want to expand on this a little further, I think it has been brought back up, and I think it was a few days ago before this amendment was actually introduced. I think it was, I want to give him a shout out. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it was Red Panda Koala, which I think is a controversial person in the Twitterverse right now, but I'm not really sure why. So whatever, he made the post that I read. And I think he was calling into question what this language was surrounding this UAP foundation, or what is this UAP foundation that is mentioned. And he was asking if it is Danny Sheehan's group, New Paradigm Institute, which Sheehan has kind of insinuated in some of his interviews over the last year that this language is kind of vague, but it is his group that is helping to write some of this legislation. So that would naturally let people assume. But I think it's more of a give to what I said about like who is maybe privy to this insider information about like this unfolding plan to come. And maybe that shows just how far the public and we, the community, are behind maybe really knowing what is going on with disclosure and the plan to unroll it. So, and this brings to mind all of these people and groups that have formed foundations over the last, I would even say, 2 years. So were they maybe tipped off that this language would include the incorporation of existing foundations? So they've all rushed to become existing foundations. So we kind of question this with Enigma and its foundation, you know, and knowing like when they filed for their business license or their nonprofit license or, you know, whatever license they had to file to become Enigma. So maybe some people in leadership positions have been smart enough to recognize that this sort of language would be written this way and have set themselves up to be in positions to take advantage of it.
I think that's a logical answer. But this report by Garcia, in
Mhm.
my opinion, and I'm curious yours, when the Schumer Rounds Amendment was absolutely trashed by Representative Mike Turner and his team of long-term elected officials from military areas, hard to believe that's all tied together. To me, this new amendment talked tough against that and what they did to the Schumer Rounds Amendment, but then gave them, once again, the caveats, the opt-outs, that if you don't like it, that's okay. We could just, not talk about it anymore. Do you think that Mike Turner et al. Will be tearing this one apart the way they did the Schumer Amendment?
Yeah, I do. I think it'll get tore apart on every level.
Do you see
I
it pass?
Well, I think it became real apparent that there was real pushback when we started seeing like that anti-disclosure or the still insisting that it's, you know, Chinese or Russian drone sort of journalism and talking coming out. And I think some people have noticed this opposition shift, like working behind the scenes, you know, whether it's Turner shutting it down or if it's lobbyists, you know, for these corporations like Lockheed or Northrop Grumman, you know, that's powerful lobbying power right there. So
Well,
I think we should expect the same sort of pushback or blowback,
Mhm. But
especially in the election year. So
when you get not only an election year, but you also get the fact that, somebody like Turner, who has Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in his constituency, that really has a lot of pull on what's going on. And the fact that he has ties to the intelligence community, that has more ties on what's going on. And I just think that it's not good news. But one thing I did find is a bright hope on this, and Rob and I talked about this, was the fact that there was protection offered, that they had got to get a little bit more serious about protection offered to whistleblowers and people who come forward. I did like that part because I know, in talking to my sources and talking to, I know you've talked to your sources about that. One of the biggest reasons why we haven't heard from more whistleblowers is they are afraid. They are afraid at the retribution that they will face by becoming public about this UFO subject. And you only have to look at the harassment that David Grush took, or, could we consider Lou Elizondo a whistleblower? I think so. Okay. You look at the harassment they've taken online. Personally, we've heard about these threats. Gary Nolan was talking about these threats. And we tend to forget that even though we want these people to come out and get on the UFO bandwagon, we tend to forget that these people still have mortgages to pay. They still have bills to pay, hydro, cable, internet, car payments. We forget about that. They don't want to ruin their career over this by going public if there's no protection. Your thoughts?
I can understand, and honestly, you know me well enough that I don't really encourage any experiencer to come forward publicly unless they're, totally prepared to ruin their life on some way, in some shape or form. It's bound to happen. Now, I also come from this world where I can worry about if I would have repercussions for talking about UFOs or the phenomenon publicly or sharing my own experiences. Like, maybe somebody would hold that against me in some way, shape, or form, but I also have the liberty to walk out of my job anytime that I want. um, and it's not political, I should say. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a political career aspirations in that way, shape, or form. So I can't imagine having that layer put on to, my life. But I do know experiencers well enough that, those that do come forward to speak feel the calling to do so. And I think whistleblowers, however loosely we want to use that term, because I don't agree with how we're calling everybody whistleblowers right now. It's just, that's another conversation. Whether they're informants or whistleblowers or, I like to call them informants, I think is the best way to put it. It does take a lot of guts, but I think the whole point of what information they want to bring forward is that it's beyond the personal. It's for the betterment of all of us. So it should have support, but with that great risk that they're taking, that's the balance of it. It really is. So, I mean, I was in a conversation with somebody earlier who does brilliant work, and they're still afraid to come out from behind their alias, and they're not even a well-known person. It's that sort of thing. But they're still afraid of that pushback and the stigmatism from, this topic and having certain views on it, especially if your views kind of go against the grain of the rest of the community. I think, that really does keep a lot of people in the shadows. But I think what we're seeing now is maybe that true safety in numbers. The more awareness that they have of each other, the more support they can lend to each other and we can lend to them. Now, do I necessarily think that they'll ever be protected enough to be able to keep the same kind of life that they have now, like before they blow the whistle or come forward with their information? No, I think that's like an unaskable get. But I do think there's better ways and better avenues that we can make happen for them to come forward. There has to be a better way. So
We got about 3 minutes to go here. And quickly, I'm not sure if you heard this story or not. This was passed to me this evening by Walter Sterling, radio host out of Philadelphia, does Sterling on Sundays, and I do a hit with him before our show on his nightly show because he likes the weird and the woo too. And he sent me a Reddit post about an alleged UFO crash that has happened in Russia in the Yakutsk region of Siberia. Not sure if you heard about this, but apparently a bunch of multiple lights went down in the forest, and people are believing that it's an actual UFO that went down. Yes, I don't understand Russian with it, so I apologize about that. But it is something interesting that crashes are happening and that they are looking into it. And apparently the military was called in to check it out and remove it. But it just goes to show that it's not only happening in the United States, but happening around the world, even to who we call adversaries.
that is interesting. No, I haven't come across it. If it's been within the last couple days, I haven't.
Apparently, it was posted about 11 hours ago.
The last one I remember, of course, it was when the fighting with the Ukraine started. And then wasn't there supposedly drones over the Kremlin shortly
And
thereafter?
and black triangles and weird lights over the battlefields.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, is this another layer of sightings with that? Or are we, seeing black tech being used with a UFO cover story? Is it propaganda at its finest? I don't know. We need diligent, on the ground Russian resources contacting Spaced Out Radio. You're closer to that side of the globe than I am.
Well, this may be true. This may be very true. However, you never know what's going on these days because
Well, you do never know. We could maybe get the Illinois National Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade to send up a balloon that can circumvent the globe and maybe find out for us. Theirs, before it, lost communication, actually had traversed the globe and floated over China. So it's a possibility.
it's always a possibility. Nicole Sakic, thank you for coming on UFO Court tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk with you and get your information on everything.
Always my pleasure.
All right, as we say goodnight to Nicole, and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. I know I say it often, but we got the baddest music around. Badass music around. God, I love that song. I do. Freaking amazing.
It's
Me
it's
up.
it's the perfect one.
It is the perfect one.
Yep.
It is.
I want to run down some stats with you real quick. Just the notes that I made. I'm not sure if you and Rob got to them, or I shouldn't say stats, just my notes. But this new legislation, one of the awesome parts I thought were they mentioned this review board that can investigate and have subpoena power.
Yep.
That's some awesome sauce there.
I like that part.
It would run until at least 2030. So that's, 6 years out, 5 years out from 2025. 20 million. Is that a year? Was it 20 million per year funding? Or was it just for that first year? which that made me think of Harry Reid's funding. That was around 20 mil. What else did I take notes on? The director of the review board directly briefs the president, Congress, and the executive branch. I thought that was duly noted. They mentioned NHI 25 times. Technologies of unknown origin was mentioned 21 times. And biological evidence was mentioned 6 times. That's all I got. Those were my notes.
I think this is a step in the right direction, but like Rob and I talked about, to me it just added too many outs.
Yeah.
Too many, it was like, it reminds me of Senator Gillibrand, who talked so tough about bringing the House of Cards down regarding the UFO subject. And then the minute she went into the public hearings, she asked, softball questions. Okay, I have enough. I'm out. At least publicly. Like, it just seemed like a complete failure on it. And I get that feeling with this as well.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the posturing and, throwing in all these add-ons that will get the axe. That might be part of it too. But at least you're on record for trying. You still get the kudos in a sense.
Oh, yes. It's always about the kudos, isn't it?
Yes. And feathers in your cap.
Right? I don't get it. But
Well, yeah, I don't know. Politics and negotiating. You get ruined after you've done your first term in. Isn't that the saying? Like your blinders come off.
that is true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Got to watch out for those honey pots.
It's very wordy. Don't you think it's wordy for no reason?
It is, but all legislation is wordy, I think. So
I agree with you.
That's a tactic as well.
I agree. Still annoying. Still very annoying.
Yeah, not to bring up politics, but I mean, wasn't it just announced today that Biden okayed U.S. weapons to be used for the Ukraine, or for the Ukraine to be able to use U.S. weapons?
I don't know. I didn't hear that part today.
Well, so if that part holds true, maybe what went down over Russia is an asset and not a UFO.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Right.
Totally sure it was.
What was it? That was what I wanted to laugh with you about. Did you and Rob talk about the part where UAP has to include one of the 6 observables?
I may have skipped over that part.
Well, I was laughing to myself because I wanted to know if you were going to note that in your what is a UAP, the mystery of...
I did see that. Yes, I did.
Defining a UAP. So...
Yeah, no, we didn't mention that last night. You can blame me for that. Bad host. Bad host.
Well, you can bring it up. This isn't going anywhere, So, but what I wasn't unclear on, maybe you can help me. So we had Garcia, who introduced 3 amendments, and then we had Graves introduce an amendment, correct? So we've had 4 amendments to the 2025 NDAA.
Well, they're going to continue.
Right. It'll be interesting to see who else puts forth amendments. Who all signed the UAP coalition statement? Who were all those senators and representatives?
My mind is blank right now.
Well, I hope we see more of them,
I hope so too.
Can you imagine if we had like 12 amendments to this, like all together?
I just don't see it happening. I can see where these people are getting, the ones that we don't want are getting fed up. But I guess that's progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what they tell us what progress is.
Unprofessional.
Unprofessional. Don't believe it. Kevin Randall hasn't approved it. I'm sure one of his super spies will quote that on. See whether I haven't even checked yet. Let me have a quick peek here. On whether or not I made it this week to the bullying list. It's always so exciting to find out. Let's see here. No.
Have you been following along all the selfies coming out of contact in the desert?
No, I haven't paid attention.
Courtney's posted some cute ones.
I know Jason Gilmet got one with Travis Walton today that he was just like nerding out over. I thought it was awesome.
Nice.
I was like, good for you, buddy. Good for you.
Our buddy Dan Warren from Fifth Pillar of Emphasis and TikTok fame, he's been posting some awesome contact in the desert pics. I think the women's panel has been one of the biggest highlights so far. Heard a lot of good feedback out of that. Which our girl, Katie Page, was on that. Whoop, whoop.
Katie Page is amazing. She's amazing. I kind of am pissed off that I'm not there. I almost feel like I should be there.
You should talk to Ron.
Oh, I'm going to talk to Ron.
Here and just have SOR, cover and promo it.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Ron about it next year. See what we can do.
I think, and I'm not sure of the numbers on it anymore since COVID, but before COVID, it was the biggest conference that ufology put on.
Oh, yeah. They do a good job there. That's for sure. They do a really good job there. You sound tired tonight.
I didn't nap like I thought I would nap because I got sucked into reading.
That'll
And
do
yeah,
it.
I'm not as tired as I was Wednesday. I was all goofball tired Wednesday. My beer stein full of coffee has done a little bit of the job tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great question.
Did I cut that off? I think I cut that off.
Hey, were you proud of me that I didn't cuss? I stopped myself. I was like,
I was very impressed with you tonight. Very impressed with you tonight.
Crap.
I'm like, where's Nicole?
That was just for you. Just for you.
I appreciate that.
I was laughing with Courtney about how I was gonna have to watch my cussing because I was tired. And she said, "Let the effities fly." I think she meant before I started, like get them out of your system.
That's what I sometimes do.
Yep.
Hi, Chris.
Who's skulking? I need to come in and say hi.
Teen, how are you? Still trying to figure out why she has that big pause in there.
Maybe she's either called Chris or Teen. And she's just giving you the option.
I don't know.
I think she wants me to insert funny stuff in the pause. So I always do funny emojis. I think last time I stuck an ice cream cone in the middle. I don't know why.
It's fun to do.
Exactly.
It's like saying I am Pam. If you come on the YouTube channel claiming you are Pam, when I am Pam, it's gonna, it's gonna be one of those conversations that has to happen. It's gonna, no censorship. What does that mean, Sergeant Slackass? What does that mean? What
I
do we
think
say?
that means he wants to talk politics.
Oh, too bad. My chat room isn't a democracy. And it's apolitical.
It's a Daveocracy.
That's right. Or Davianism, whatever you want to call it.
I like Daveocracy because back in my cheerleader days, that movie Bring It On came out and we turned everything into a cheerocracy.
Michael,
And so a Daveocracy is equally as ridiculous as a cheerocracy, so I like it.
Michael Duhamel is pissed off he can't see you.
It's because I'm being too bad right now to be visualized.
Moody Mongol, how are you?
Hey,
Paisley Park.
you know what I saw that it should be being talked about is the new Discovery series that's coming out that our buddy Dave Altman helped with. I think I recognize some people and faces that are going to be a part of it. One of whom was Hoodoo Tall.
They tried to get me in on that with my UFO experiences.
Yeah.
I declined them.
Don't want to be on Discovery Channel?
It has nothing to do with being on Discovery Channel. I have nothing to prove to people, and what they're doing is they're putting people almost like through a courtroom type experience.
Yeah, it's what I understood, it's kind of like a reboot of fact or fiction.
Yeah, and I don't need people who are Lou Sassel. No, I'm not going to ask Nicole about that. What a dick comment.
Oh, there's always one, Without my glasses, I thought it said booties, and I'm barefoot, but then I realized it says boobs.
Yeah.
Let's see your boobs, Dave.
I don't even know. I'm sitting in New Jersey. I can't get my fat ass up over it right now.
If people only knew. What was it? One of my last X spaces, somebody wanted to know who I made out with or who I make out with. It's always delightful questions.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
you know how it goes. You know how it goes. Okay, right there. Let's convert these bad boys.
His name almost looks like Lou Casserole.
Yeah, Lou Casserole. Dr. Lou Casserole. Your patient is here.
A loose casserole is a bad thing, by the way. You don't want your casserole to be loose. It's no good. You got to throw it out and redo it.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. My chef knowledge and expertise.
I thought you were just a cook.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of those two. Oh, cicada update, right?
Yes, please.
We've got 1 week left, allegedly, for them to keep emerging and having their party. I will say I've noticed a drop in their loudness, so that's a bonus. That must means there's less of them. I will say, in the spirit of cooking and chefing, people have been coming at me with some weird stories. Like, apparently, you can eat these things with popcorn. You can deep fry them, and you can dip them in chocolate. And I've also heard, for the first time ever in my entire life, I've heard of cicada pie.
Really?
Apparently, the trick to any of these recipes is you have to remove their wings and their legs.
Are they going to the using the Bill Clinton school of
I think what I'm hearing is probably a resurgence of ancient old pioneering recipes, maybe, and maybe coupling it with this alternative protein, talk that we hear these days. And so, yeah, but the fun part, which it like tweaks my curiosity just slightly, is that I've heard when you bread and deep fry these insects that they actually taste like asparagus.
I'm not taking that chance.
I honestly love asparagus, and that's where my interest wanes. Like, I'm like, oh, really? All right, well, I'll just keep eating asparagus.
I'll just stick with asparagus.
But I don't know if there is any willing volunteers out there. The only thing I can say is if you collect them, I'll pull their wings and legs off and fry them, and then you can eat them. We can test ride this theory of how they taste, but with somebody else's taste buds. I'll use my culinary expertise to cook somebody bugs. Could be fun.
I'm not eating bugs.
I don't know. The other thing I want to know is, are there cicada looking extraterrestrials like we hear about the ants and the mantis? Would be interesting, when the cycle of insects, how cicadas seem to emerge at different points and times. Like, have there ever been cicada extraterrestrial sightings?
Probably.
You know who I want to ask, right?
Our Keith Andrews.
I do. I want to ask our Keith. I'll wait. His Monday's coming up, isn't it? Or is it a Friday?
He's next Friday.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll be in the chat. Capitalizing my question.
Awesome.
My last report on cicadas is somebody reported a blue-eyed one in my county, which apparently those are special because they all have the orangey red eyes. Blue black-eyed cicada, I guess, is a different one. Or it's a myth. So I don't know. Somebody solved that.
All right, dude. On that note, I got to finish editing here.
All right.
Thank you for your awesomeness once again.
You're welcome. I'm going to go get topless now.
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
Later. All right. Big thank you tonight to Cosmic Joe, Dutch Hank, T-Bone with a hat trick, W. Decker ×2, Aloha Dave, Babylon ×2, Necessary Dialogue, Android ×2, Kira for the amazing super chats. Don't forget this weekend, you got Sweet Robbie G, the sweet man, coming in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. And then on Sunday, you got Jessica Jones, fresh off her Coast to Coast appearance with George Norrie, and going on Sunday with Off the Trails. So make sure you check her out before Rob on Sunday. And in a couple weeks' time, we're going to have a brand new show for you guys here with Jackie Harmon and Lee Strauss. It'll be Fridays before my show. So kick back, enjoy. We'll see you all on Monday, where my guest will be dun 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 Mike Martin. What are we talking about? Dark Explorations. Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right, guys. We'll see you on Monday. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Later.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.